Go Pizza presents STP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wilde.
Well,
Steve made it.
I did.
Jesse was already here.
Yes,
I was.
I drove for 5 hours today, and I don't want to call him friend of the show. I feel like that's not fair to him. I want to call him best friend of the show.
Really?
Reporter Chris Johnson
There you go.
is also here. We're so excited to have him.
BFF.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
Podcast pal.
the only guy...
I might have traveled the longest distance to get here.
Yeah, where did you come from?
Summer vacation. Like just deep down the hole of not working. So
Yeah.
just the notion of like setting a time to meet someone somewhere that isn't like in my living room and getting there on that time felt like a real victory.
What do you watch during the summer? I find myself like putzing around my new place, like putting stuff away, and like I put on like Paramount Network and watch Bar Rescue because it's just constantly on, and I love that show. What do you put on?
I'm a giant sports nerd.
So you're at sports all the time.
I'm watching sports like 95% of the time. So I'm watching
Tour de France?
I watch Tour de France. I watch all the golf tournaments.
Cincy Open.
The tennis?
Cincy
No,
Open.
I'm watching tennis.
Yeah.
The Jays games at night. And we've started watching, actually, my wife and I, Killing Eve.
Yep. We've been watching that
Netflix?
too.
It's awesome. No, it's not on Netflix. FX.
FX, yeah.
And we've only seen 5 episodes, but it's been awesome. It's one of those shows that like I wish I could binge watch it, but I can't.
So it's the episodes are coming out like one at a time
Every Sunday night.
So like a normal TV show.
I got 2 of
Like
those
normal
shows
TV
on the
show?
go right now. It's Killing Eve and Castle Rock.
I've heard
watching right now.
Castle Rock's really good.
creepy.
You have to watch Castle Rock. Stephen King.
Oh yeah?
It's basically some of the same.
The main creepy guy is the Swedish guy, I forget his name, who played Pennywise in It. The new
Okay.
It. Yeah, it's freaky.
It's really good. You'll really like it.
Now I've been hearing The Americans is worth getting into, but
I've heard that too.
I haven't
A
gone
lot
down
of
that
FX
road.
shows are good. The Americans I've heard is good. I could tell you, Amazon Prime is worth investing in as well because I haven't.
You have all of them.
I have all of them. I have all the streaming services. I'm fanatic. Whoa, what do I do? Chris talks about not
Crave,
having
you
a few
have
weeks
Netflix.
off.
You
I'm like,
don't
I've been off for
have
2 months,
You
man.
don't put together your barbecue?
That's true. I did buy a barbecue and had the store put it
paid
together.
someone to put it together.
Well, it was
even though
free.
you have all of the
Okay,
time to
it's
figure it
I
out.
can spend 4 hours doing it and screwing it up the way I screwed up my master bedroom, which I did. We had an ottoman bed, and I screwed it up, and I had to reorder parts for it.
Well,
Do you mean
goes
like a
together like-
Murphy bed?
Well, a Murphy bed is the full weight. Ottoman bed's half.
Okay. I got a
it's-
Murphy bed, and that's like, it's left scars putting that thing together.
Thank you.
It was like,
Thank you.
It took 10 hours with 4 functional adults. It was insane. It was insane. I
feel less bad.
And we saved like $1,000, which is a lot of money in a way, but it was not worth that 10 hours. Like it was, if I could go back, I would pay $100 an heure to not have done that.
So here's what I would ask you.
$100.
If you bought a nice barbecue, and this is a good barbecue, I was like, I want this barbecue to last. It's a Weber. I'm very proud of this purchase. And they said, we'll put it together for free and we'll deliver it to your house.
You didn't say it
it's
was
free.
free.
Okay.
And the warranty for 10 years.
no, you literally said you paid someone.
Oh, but no, Jesse said I paid someone.
Because you never mentioned that it was free to
Well,
put. Yes,
yeah,
then.
of course it was free.
Okay, that's not usually the case. Usually it's you pay someone.
Exactly.
It's like, hey,
Yeah.
extra $50 fee, we'll put this together for you, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know it was free. Of course you take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dumb to not take it.
Thank you.
Would you
I made the
rather
right
be
choice.
Adam, who had a responsible adult put together his barbecue, or me, who tried to put a donut on my car the other day, got the car up on the jack, car rolled off the jack.
Oh.
Freaking, if I was under it, I'd be dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Have you guys made plans? Like if you die, does it become the Adam Wilde podcast?
No, Jesse for sure.
No, it's the Steve Dangle Memorial Podcast.
okay.
Yeah, we keep the name going.
I didn't know if you guys had, it's a
We
touchy subject.
don't have
but
we don't have a really.
is there like a
contingency
will
plan.
for the program? Like,
Adam
be.
and Jesse are allowed to profit off my death. It's okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And we
T-shirts.
All proceeds go to us. Our hearts are broken.
Yeah. There's no proceeds, it's profits.
I think Mrs. Dangle should get a few of the proceeds.
She gets a free one. She gets
So,
a free one, but like a few sizes too big, so she can like wear it to bed and stuff.
yeah, like a Jays game T-shirt, where it doesn't really fit.
yeah. You know, when Jesse and I would turn it into like a Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless when they were together and they were at their height, that would be our. No, I will argue this point and get louder. And then he will argue a point and get louder than me. And it would just be an hour of that.
I have the show. You take points that I had previously made and try to defend them. Jesse has to tear them down as he usually would. Advantage Jesse.
I like that. We call
Because
it
that's just what he does
Actually,
anyway.
we call the show Advantage Jesse.
There you go. There it is.
There it is.
It's also a tennis show now.
Yes.
Yeah, we only talk about tennis.
So, Chris, you've had a good
That went
off-season?
places.
Yeah, it's been really good. We should, before we go on, we should have your SDP listeners to send me on Twitter any suggestions for shows. So I do still have a couple weeks of semi-freedom here.
At
Oh,
Reporter
you're
Chris.
about to get inundated. So, yeah.
There's a lot of them.
All right. Anyone who just waste my time with something stupid, I'll probably just flip by it. I'm not going to block anyone, but try to keep it shows I might actually want to watch.
You might like Seinfeld.
Have you heard of it?
Simpsons, give that a shot. It might be great.
Delete Blueprints. Have you heard of it?
Man, other than
Tim said.
those two shows that I mentioned, I've been watching hockey highlights. I've honestly been watching hockey highlights. Does that make you nauseous that I've been doing that? Or
No, I'm trying not to judge, but that's
Don't try not to.
it
Don't
makes
try
you
not to
sick
judge.
something there. A little sick puppy.
mostly just like Leaf overtime winners from last year and like shootout winners.
That's weird.
No, it's not.
It is.
super
It's a
great.
little weird, man.
No, it's the best. Matthews versus Chicago. Oh, be still my beating heart.
I don't even remember that.
Wasn't it
specifically.
Nylander?
There were no. There was one at home and there was one
On the road was Nylander penalty shot, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, which tied an NHL record for fastest overtime goal. So I'm sorry. I'm sick. I'm sick and demented. I'm sorry.
I've spent the last 6 weeks trying to forget that stuff, and you're like,
Yeah.
I want to cement this in there.
Only if I'm on a highlight pack and I know they lost that game, I'm like, no, skip over that one. You know, I only want to see the wins.
Do you remember which games they won and lost?
A shocking amount of them.
Like
yes.
if we're not going to do this, but if we went through the schedule,
Jesse, bring up the
what
schedule.
percentage,
I think I do pretty decent.
even if we included overtime win or overtime loss, could you?
That one, that might be rough.
That might be
But
rough.
We'll
Okay,
see.
let's pick a random month.
All right.
Let's pick a
What,
random
I
month.
gotta like figure out the record.
Well, no. What Jesse will do is he'll say on November whatever.
We should do like February,
February, yes.
because like even the most locked in hockey fan in February is like, all right, when's the playoffs starting?
Yeah,
What's going
especially
on
with
here?
the Leafs.
Dog days.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so take the Leafs schedule from February, and we'll just go through each game, and Steve will tell you what the result was.
I
but
was
not, you don't have
probably
to-
at 90% of these games, and you would outdo me on this. I would.
Do you want
You guys want to go head to head?
head to head?
All right.
Yes. But how do we? You don't get a choice. Let's go.
How do we maintain the like? If he just yells out "win,"
No, you. That's
do we have to write it down or something?
his guess, your guess,
And
he says when.
tiebreak is score.
Yeah, tiebreak is score.
I'm not going to know any scores.
All right, Adam. You got to keep score.
Okay,
Who's
I will
winning?
keep
Yeah,
score.
yeah.
I will keep score.
All right. Leafs played the New York Rangers on February 1st.
You have to say where it happened.
Yeah.
They were in New York. Road game. Rangers. Leafs.
I want to say that was a Pavlik game. And I think the Leafs won 4-2.
Don't even try with the score. Just say they won.
The Leafs
But
won.
he's showing off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
no,
true.
I might be totally wrong, and then I look like a dick.
So what do I have to say here?
Just say win or loss. Win or loss. And then Jesse says if it's a tie, then you guys have to
going
guess
with
the
win.
score. You're going with win, and you go with win.
I go with one.
It's a tie.
Okay. Score.
So what was the score?
I think it was 4-2.
4-1.
4-0.
So you guys are even. You're even.
Okay.
Oh wait, so how are
No,
you?
that's a non-point.
No, but Chris was closer.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, Chris is right. Yeah, sure.
Okay, fine. Okay, that works.
I totally cheated there, though. I basically took the $1. I actually should have went 4-0.
All right, that Saturday they play Boston in Boston. February 3rd
Oh,
In Boston.
in Boston.
that was
I
a
believe the gray
loss.
ones are road games.
So Chris says loss.
I think that was. Oh. You know what? That's the second half of a back-to-back, right?
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, that was a day in between that Rangers game.
This is going to be a
So it was
terrible
a loss
I
then.
know,
I'm going to go with
seriously.
the loss. I'm going to go with the loss because
Both
there was
say
that
loss?
crazy game where McElhinney robbed them, but it couldn't be that game.
Okay.
Chris, what do you say?
Are we tied?
What did you?
I said loss first.
It was a loss. And so what was the score?
The Leafs lost 4-1.
I think it was 4-1 as well. Are we allowed to guess the same one?
Yeah, it was 4-1.
Yeah.
Saturday,
Wow.
February
Okay, we
3rd.
get
It was 4-1.
You both get a point for that.
we need some sound effects for
Yeah,
this.
we need a bell.
Oh, damn. I used to have a bell.
You
I
did.
used-
Sorry, we didn't prepare this ahead of time. So
All right, Monday.
Can you tell?
Monday, they're at home. They're playing Anaheim.
Oh, that was a crazy game. They won. Leafs won.
only because he sounds like he remembers. I'm
What
going to
was
say
the
they
score?
won.
They did win.
I want to say it was like 7-4.
2-1.
It was 7-4.
Oh my god! Oh wow! I don't remember how to long divide, guys.
That was Monday, February 5th.
Wow.
Did you forget your anniversary?
Yeah, dude, I don't know anything except the Leafs.
We're tied up at 2. All tied up at 2.
All right, Wednesday, February 7th, they play Nashville at home.
We were at that game.
Yes, we were.
So it's unfair.
Yeah,
Just say it. Just say it.
Leafs
anyway.
won.
Except I was supposed to go first.
Oh, sorry.
So that was a Leafs win.
Yeah, the score.
4-2.
It was 3-2 in the shootout.
It was 3-2 in a shootout.
That is so unfair.
I was there and I don't remember that.
I love this game so much. I'm enjoying this. All right, let's keep going.
Saturday, February 10th, they play Ottawa at home. Chris, since Steve stole your turn.
Yes, sir.
There's a couple Ottawa games in that period.
Yeah. There's a lot of Ottawa and Buffalo to end the season.
Hockey night in Canada.
They won that game.
What's going on?
There was the one where Marner went off. But there was also the one where like Kadri scored off someone's face. The Leafs kept tying it
Remembering random Ottawa
up.
games.
Yeah.
Is that, you have
I think
to-
they lost.
I said win.
Leafs won.
Yes!
Leafs won
There you go.
6-3.
Tied up at 3.
All right, the next Monday, they play Tampa at home.
Oh, I remember this game. The Lightning got stuck here because of a snowstorm.
Oh.
Wow. I don't remember that.
So who won?
Tampa.
It was Tampa.
Tie.
You're both incorrect.
Whoa!
It was a 4-3 victory for the Leafs.
That's a non-point.
That was the one
Maybe
where
I'm
the
mixing
Leafs,
that up with another
the
game
Leafs
then.
got a
Maybe.
3-0 lead. Tampa came all the way back. Leafs ended up winning it.
That doesn't
I
get
assume-
bonus points.
No, I know. But I'm saying
What's the
what
score
happened.
right now?
showing off.
3-all.
3-3.
All right. That
This whole
Wednesday,
game is showing off.
that Wednesday, the Leafs play Columbus
At home?
At home.
In February,
Who's
February.
guessing first?
This is Valentine's Day. Steve goes first.
Leafs won.
Leafs lost.
The Leafs won 6-3.
I was there.
You were there.
You went to a lot of games this year.
went to a game on
It was the
Mrs.
most games I've
Dangle-
ever been to.
Was Mrs. Dangle with you?
Yes.
Okay.
So Steve is up 4-3.
She had a crazy record this year. They won like 6 or 7 straight games.
That she was
Without
at.
Until the
building,
playoffs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Until the playoffs.
Saturday,
Including
February
the playoffs.
17th, Leafs play Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh.
It's Dangle's
Yeah. No, your turn.
loss.
I say loss.
It was a loss. What was the score?
That was the one that went right down to the end. 5-4 Pittsburgh.
5-3 Pittsburgh.
5-3 Pittsburgh. The empty net. That's why I was.
Strangely enough, the score is now 5-3 Steve.
Wow.
Just throwing that out there.
you go.
Back-to-back games. They go to
If
Detroit.
Vegas was handicapping this, I would have got
Oh, God.
points for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Dangle would have been like, it's like if we're playing golf, I'm giving him a few strokes. You have to give me strokes. In
What's
this.
your handicap?
We're going to have to play this game again.
He's a
This is
scratch
fun.
leafer.
That's awesome.
All right, back-to-back games. The Sunday, they play Detroit in Detroit.
So wait, the Saturday was the Pittsburgh game.
Saturday's Pittsburgh on the road. Detroit on the road the Sunday.
I think the Leafs won.
Loss.
Leafs won 3-2.
Jeez.
Wow. All right.
Tuesday,
6-3. Now it's a rout.
Madeline was like unbeatable. Sorry.
Chris, Tuesday, they play Florida in Florida. No, at home.
February what?
20th.
Leafs win.
Leafs win.
What's the score?
4-2.
They played it. There was a barn burner and a close one. I think this was the close one. I'm going to say 2-1.
It was 1-0. I guess that's a point for
That's still Steve.
Steve. Yeah, he's
'cause he's
closer.
closer.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm already dead.
There's 4 more games left.
All right,
You
do it.
wanna?
Do it. Let's do it.
All
Come
right,
on.
4 more games. Thursday, February 22nd, they play the Islanders at home. What happens? Steve first.
Leafs win.
John Tavares still played for the Islanders then.
Yes.
Leafs win.
They did win. What was the score?
I got to go first. 5-0.
3-0.
It was 4-3. That goes to Chris.
Yep, that does go to Chris.
4-3 in the shootout.
Wow. I had the wrong game. This was in Toronto?
This was in Toronto, yeah. 4-3.
I had the wrong game. Sorry.
I thought of a different one.
I love that he's never wrong. He only has the wrong game.
No, I was thinking of the game where Dermott and Hall scored their first goal,
I wish
which
I
was
had thought of this when I
5-0.
was in high school. Like, I just wrote the wrong test. I didn't know the answer.
Oh, no, that's what I said.
I knew the other answer.
You just gave me the wrong questions.
I was letting you guys have one.
All right,
let's do it.
Saturday, February 24th, Hockey Night in Canada. Leafs play Boston at home. Chris is first.
Lost. Leafs lost. No, Leafs won that one.
Chris would have been on headlines that night too.
Leafs
I had
won.
other things to do other than watch the game.
What was your answer?
Leafs won.
You're
Leafs
both
won.
correct. Leafs did win. What was the score?
3-2.
I think it was 3-2 as well.
It was 4-3. So it's you both get a point. But very close.
No point.
I actually remember
No
that
point.
game.
Or both point. Same
Both
thing.
point. Yeah, no point.
Monday, February 26th. Leafs go to Tampa, play Tampa. What's the score?
Leafs lose.
Leafs lose.
Leafs do lose. What's the final score?
That was ugly. 4-1.
My honest answer is 3-2.
It was 4-3 Tampa. So Steve's a little
Oy.
closer, right?
Steve is a little closer.
I think the Leafs were down big in that game and came back.
Yeah, they lost in the shootout, actually. Yeah. So. Final one, February.
Oh, no, they were head big and blew it.
Oh, is that the one?
Yes.
I remember
Yeah,
Babcock.
yeah.
They blew 2 3-goal
Because then they
leads.
went to
Yeah.
Florida, right? The next day?
Next day, back to back, they're in Florida on the Tuesday, February 27th. Last question. Who wins?
Florida.
Florida.
And what was the score?
3-2 in the shootout.
3-2.
3-2 in overtime. Oh. You both tie. You both get a point.
Wow.
There you go.
8-4. For those
8-4?
keeping track. 8-4, Steve
All right.
over Chris. And Chris was at a lot of those games.
I was at a couple.
yeah, you were, man.
I did not plan on that.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
I bet that there are listeners that are just out there. They knew
Oh
them
my
all.
God.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there was a time in my life I would have remembered every
The
game.
listeners are, without a doubt, smarter than us.
So-
Like,
And they're younger. They got less junk.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
up
true.
in the head.
Mortgages and things.
Or
other
even
things.
just like past seasons.
Yeah, that's true.
I met a kid. I was at a Sportsnet golf tournament last week, and nice guy came up and introduced himself. Big fan, all this stuff. He's like, I was born in '99. Like, I don't even remember playoff runs. And I was like, oh my god,
wow.
And like, he looks old now. Like, this is
Yeah,
he can
he's-
buy alcohol.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
nearly a 20-year-old person.
I know.
That's insane.
Like he would have been like 5 when Eddie Belfour left town. That's so crazy.
Left town. Like we realize we've started to have to do that when we talk about like vintage Sundin. Like there's a fair chunk of our
Yeah.
listeners who don't remember, weren't alive.
2006 feels like yesterday. 2007 feels like yesterday.
Even 2002.
Yeah,
Like-
not that far.
Man.
That's what a great playoff run will do, though. And that's what the younger people, I think, are going to get here soon, is that when you go through like a 99 or a 2002 or 93 for those old enough with the Leafs.
94 wasn't bad either. It never gets any love.
It's because 93 was just like a glorious, it's like the Jays. 2015 was way better than 2016.
That's true. That's true. But like
There's just more like,
they're
it's
like
exciting.
that close
it's
against
new.
Vancouver. Like they were close.
Yeah, they lost in 5, though.
You have a nasty enough playoff series against anyone in the second or third round.
They nearly lost to San Jose in that playoffs.
Did they?
In Game 7, they had a shot go off the crossbar.
Whoa.
And San Jose back then was beating nobody.
Yeah,
That
they
was
were.
the Arturs Urbe San Jose Sharks, I think.
It
Was
might
Jeff
have been.
Friesen playing at that point?
Oh no, I think
I
that's
mean,
pre-freezing.
it's probably unfair, but the way the hockey would have viewed that as like an indignity if you had lost
yeah.
to San Jose at
Yeah.
that point.
And that was
Crazy.
when the Leafs were in the West, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why they were
This is
playing
why
them.
they're playing San Jose.
Such a wild time. They could have played in consecutive years, Montreal and then New York. That would, like, original 6 matchups 2 years in a row. That would have been pretty cool. But they would have lost to both of them, I think. Honestly.
The point I was going to make is a nasty enough playoff series, like in the second, third, maybe even Stanley Cup final, you'll hate that team for the rest of your life. Like as a fan, like that's why like the Sens. Like I'm sorry, like I know it's Leafs Habs. That's the big rivalry. I'll never
I
hate
don't
the
know about
Habs as
that.
much as I hate the Sens. Like I
The Habs and Bruins are a bigger rivalry
Yeah.
from Montreal's
Way bigger.
standpoint. So
Yeah.
way bigger.
Way
like
bigger.
even Montreal, like it's like historical, but it's not really today.
Yeah. It's
If they played now, though, it'd be cool.
totally, but it's just the recent history is just not there.
So-
For Leafs Habs.
As a Leafs fan, who do you hate most?
Probably Flyers and Devils.
Really?
Not Boston?
what?
Oh, and
Boston's
Boston.
not
Sorry,
Boston?
if we're talking childhood Flyers and Devils, now it's I can't even hate the Bruins because they won those damn things. They won them cleanly. You know what I mean? Like there was something so depressing about this year's loss. I really thought they were going to avenge it, and they lost it in the exact same damn way. Killed me.
I think you're just more like beaten down by the Leafs.
No, I'm not. You're beaten down. Yeah, I was pretty depressed.
After that playoff series, and there's been a lot of change, so I kind of want to get your reaction to a lot of stuff that's happened in the offseason. But do you think that there was a coming together of minds with Leafs brass about the way players were deployed, about the type of the style of hockey that they were playing? Obviously you can't. I don't think you can pin that on Jake Gardiner, right? Like you can't. Yeah, he had a bad game. Fine. Okay, fine. But the style of play that they were playing was going to lead to an issue one way or another.
Maybe, but when I look back, I think it's hard to say they learned something from the playoffs. I mean, I think the players individually might have, but just because when you get a new GM, I mean, Kyle's going to make different decisions than Lou would have. We can all understand that without having to expand on it too much here. They've watched 4 or 5 guys leave right away that they didn't basically even try to resign. And so just by virtue of those two things, they're going to be different this year anyway. I mean, even leaving Tavares aside just for a moment.
That guy. Yeah.
But even if they didn't get him, they weren't re-signing Bozak, JVR, Komarov, Polak. I mean, all those guys were gone, and they were all playing in Game 7, right? So I guess Komarov was scratched for Game 7, but still, so I don't know if there has been a meeting of the minds. It was such a strange series. I mean, the way the Leafs started it,
They started dead.
they didn't lose. Steve would know this, but they didn't lose one game all year by 4 goals, and then they lost Game 1 and Game 2 by 4 goals to Boston. I mean, they totally fell on their face. They scraped back in it. They had a chance to win in Game 7 and fell apart. So, I think it's a disappointing. I think individually, like Austin Matthews clearly will take that to heart, the way the season ended. I'm sure it's been on his mind all summer long. Mitch Marner probably feels good. I mean, not but the way that the team season ended, but how he played. I think it was good to see Patrick Marleau play so well in the playoffs.
He was so good.
It was.
The Kadri suspension. He's got to be thinking
What a
about that.
huge hit that was.
The good thing about Nazem, I always maintain, is that stuff just rolls off his back. So I'm not. He might be the one exception who just walked away and was like, "Well, it's hockey." Because,
Probably. I don't care.
and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's mostly a positive quality. I think that it allows him to play in Toronto, and especially in his younger years, he was so much the focus of all this controversy, and
It never got to
they
him.
called him fat when he was the best prospect
18.
in the
Forgot about
organization. That was a long time ago. But my point is most players would have been totally destroyed by some of what he dealt with. It basically took him 3 years of going up and down between the Marlies and the Leafs before he was a full-time player. I mean, that's ancient history. But, for him, I just think that attitude has helped carry him to this point. But you have to live with it occasionally, maybe. I think in areas like that, the coaching staff might want him to have a little bit more self-reflection. I just don't think it's in his nature. He believes in himself, and he should. He's a great player, and he's the one guy, though, I'm guessing, honestly. Like, you watch when he's asked about it by one of the reporters, they'll just be like, well, it's hockey.
Well, when I remember there was there was some shade from Freddie kind of mid-season, sort of right after the bye week or whatever. And it was basically at the Old Guard. And I want to say Naz was involved in that. I can't remember exactly. Do you think that gets taxing on his teammates at all? His kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say he's aloof or anything, but 3-game suspension in a playoff series, not a big deal. You know what I mean?
I think he's liked by the guys, honestly. I mean, he's a damn good player. And I don't, I don't want to focus on that one sort of observation on his personality and extrapolate it too far here, because to have back-to-back 30-goal seasons and to play the competition he did, I mean, he, to me, is an interesting character in what's to come this year, though, because clearly being the third center now is going to change what his world looks like. I mean, he probably off power play 1, I'm guessing, although that's purely a blind stab. It's not based on any information. I don't think anyone knows quite how they're going to do that. But he's been part of that really successful top power play unit. He's going to play fewer minutes. He's probably not playing with Mitch Marner much. I wouldn't think at 5-on-5, assuming everyone's healthy and all that sort of stuff. So, he's going to have to take a little bit lesser of a role. And I think it's one thing to say, yeah, I want to win and this is great. And we know he's got a history of John Tavares, but the reality might be a little bit tough to swallow the pride, I think. Yeah. But my sense is he's really well liked. I mean, even looking at the videos that surfaced of his wedding this summer, I mean, the whole team's in there, doing the dance. And, he's a really easy guy to love. I think, even as a media guy, he's one of, if I had to do a power rankings of favorite interviews, he's easily in the top 3. And I haven't done this, so I don't have my list thought totally through. But he's without question, one of the go-to guys. And I think that he has that personality in the dressing room too.
Mm-hmm. So, the changing of the guard, it was very clear what the guard change was, right? Obviously, you've got guys left over from the Brian Burke era, right? I mean, that JVR is a Brian Burke trade.
We finally moved on from the John Ferguson era because Komarov was the last holdover from that. He was drafted by John Ferguson.
Jake Gardner's still tied to Brian Burke.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, fair enough.
Nice.
What do you think this does for team chemistry? Forget Tavares in this. With those guys out of the room, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it time? Is it, did they kind of look at it and go, well, A, we can't afford them, but B, it's time?
Well, it's opportunity, right? I think that's the biggest thing. If you're a younger winger on this team and, there's only one way to look at that. I mean, JVR, he played fewer minutes last year than he has, but was still getting that prime spot on the power play and still getting some of those minutes. Bozak was on PP1. I think that for the younger guys on the team that, clearly if this is their team now, it's a chance to play more and be more important. It might not go smoothly initially. I mean, I think I'm very high on the Leafs' chances in general, but there could be some growing pains out of the gate because you've had a lot of stability there in those guys.
We've had that theory. We think that they're going to struggle in October.
Yeah, well, it's be hard not to. I mean, okay, well, aside from
Except
Freddie,
that they can just win on their talent. I mean, that's
or that, which is what they did last year.
Yeah.
We blew a 4-goal lead in our home opener. Never mind. We'll just score another
6.
What was it? 3 goals. Yeah. Win 8-5. Ridiculous. I don't remember where I was going with that.
I wonder with, because we have heard a lot about leadership, and Austin Matthews obviously had the interview with Jonas Siegel that just came out yesterday or today, where, they were talking about, he said, if they asked me, I'd be ready. And I don't think the captaincy is really all that important to the overall team, but it has to be important to the players, no matter how much they shrug it off. And is this going to be a season where we see Tavares and Matthews both wear A's and there's no captain?
I could definitely see no captain. I think that there's not a compelling reason to have to do it. I mean, it's certainly only the media that's talking about this, right? I don't think that it's hard to make an argument that it's really impacted the team not having a captain the last couple of years. We even saw Vegas, get through to the Cup final and not have a captain and have to say, hey, Derek Englund, by the way, when we win the Western Conference, you got to go take that trophy. But it's a real thing for specifically Tavares and Matthews. I mean, what you're talking about here is if the Leafs win the Stanley Cup, you're the guy who goes and gets it. And I realize there's a whole lot of other things that go with being a captain, but you're on this team that's starting to look like it could be a super team. You're trying to end a 50-plus year Stanley Cup drought. I mean, there's some value in being the guy who is, going to get some credit and going to get called over potentially by Gary Bettman if the Leafs do manage to get it done at some point in the next couple of years. I mean, that's what those guys, that's what you're thinking, though.
Chris.
You're John Tavares. You've just signed a 7-year deal. You're Austin Matthews. You're probably going to sign an 8-year deal, at some point in the near future. You're thinking in the course of those contracts, you have a team that should win the Cup at some point. That's what those guys are thinking. And I think, come on. I mean, these guys are competitive mofos. I mean, you don't get as good at this one thing as they are. Both top 10 players in the world, in my opinion, without having a drive to want to be the best all the way along. And they took, remarkably different routes to get there. But I think that they both would want it with True Serum. I don't see it, though, as like a friction issue.
So it won't be something that, like, when one gets it inevitably and the other doesn't, they're not going to be upset about it.
I don't think so. I mean, we're guessing a little bit on that. I mean, I think it's probably to me, it's probably more important to Austin because
John's done it.
Well, John's done it. I don't know. It's still Austin's team, in my opinion. I mean, he's the guy. Lots has changed around Toronto that made the Leafs better, but drafting Austin Matthews is number one on the list, I think, winning that lottery for changing the outlook of the organization. I think even forgetting a John Tavares, I mean, this is not in any way to throw shade at Nylander and Marner, but if you have those guys but not Matthews, I think it's way harder to get Tavares to come. But he came because he doesn't have to do everything. And I think that's why it's great for Austin, too, that you have two absolutely elite centermen, in the prime of their careers, presumably. So I think it still would probably mean a bit more to Austin. He's younger. He hasn't done it. He's never been a captain in his life. He didn't play on teams when he was a kid.
Wow, right.
I mean, he did mostly skills work and would go for a tournament here and there with different teams, really till he got to the U.S. development program. He wore an A there. Then he was in, Switzerland for a year and 2 years with the Leafs. I mean, this guy has barely been on teams compared to, like John Tavares would have been on teams when he was 4 years old and right through and has been a captain numerous times. I think that it probably means more to him deep down.
I wonder if just because Austin is, the guy they drafted, I wonder if it's where they say, you know what, at the end of the day, it is, as you said, it's Austin's team. This is a guy that's come up through the Leafs, and that's not John Tavares' fault. But you might say, all right, listen, John, you understand where we're coming from here. He's been here longer. This is his team, and it's you're a leader in this dressing room. But I mean, to me, it has to be Austin.
But the flip side of that is, if you're the Leafs, and this is based on how they've done everything in the last couple of years, they're trying to minimize the expectations on the younger players.
Right.
And to me, if you look at it, you go, we could give it to John Tavares tomorrow, and it's not going to change much about him. I mean, he's been through it. He's been the face of a franchise. Yeah, it's a little different with the Leafs, but the media thing's no big deal to him. And that's part of the job, honestly, is you're basically have to speak every day. And Austin has lost patience with reporters a little bit. I haven't had any personal issues with him at all, but he's still a young, fiery guy. I mean, I don't blame him whatsoever, but part of the job sometimes is to be like
your PR,
the diplomatic leader of the dressing room at times. And so there's certainly less of a known if you give it to John Tavares. I think that's probably why they won't give it to either of them, to be honest, this season, and see how things play out, see how everyone falls in line. I think Austin's going to be the number one center myself. I mean, I guess we'll have that debate all year long, but
yeah,
which line is the first line?
1A, 1B, right?
Well, that'll be like the hot take at some point.
That's how we'll start
Austin
our podcast,
Matthews,
Jesse.
a Leafs second line center.
I'm going to say Kadri's first line.
Oh wow, yeah, because Babcock does like to throw him out there to shut lines down right off the start.
That's a great idea. I think we're going to put him up against Jay Beagle. 30 minutes.
Oh, God.
It's going to be fascinating, though. Like, how do they distribute the minutes?
Well, wouldn't you do...
I know it's a great problem to have. I'm not raising it like, how can they do this? They'll never find an answer, but I do think that there's...
20-20-15-5? Like, it's sort of...
That's the fascinating thing. So Ian Tulloch was on Good Show.
But don't you want Tavares and Matthews out there more than that?
Well, Matthews
you could basically not have a fourth line center, I think.
Yeah, you don't need to play... like
that was suggested.
Essentially have someone who kills penalties or something.
Yeah, and I think that's what they think Part Lindholm can do. Hopefully. I mean, I don't know too much about Josh Joris, but that seems to be his only competition going into camp. And
it's Lindholm. I mean, unless...
It's Lindholm unless he loses it, right?
But as we're sitting here now, 3 weeks before camp, it's Lindholm. I mean, Babcock's been clear about that.
Now, why do they believe in this guy?
Well, he played at the Olympics for Sweden. He's one of the best players in Sweden last year. I mean, and he's...
But so were Andreas Borgman and Calle Rosen.
But this guy's older.
Okay.
He's 25, 26. I think, look, no one knows for sure. But first of all, fourth line center, you're not asking that much out of them. I know that they get a disproportionate amount of attention and passionate fan bases.
Second round
like
picks thrown their way, by the way.
Oh my God, yeah. Well,
right. But when you have these three centers in front of them, I don't think the job is as much heavy lifting as elsewhere. And he's an adult. He's fully formed. I mean, look, Borgman played most of the year for the Leafs. I know he got sent down later on, but I mean, those guys weren't not NHLers. They didn't necessarily move the needle too greatly. They still might be in play this year, though. We'll see. The blue line's got all kinds of
Oh, I want to get to
disparate
that.
pieces. Oh, I'm sure it's coming.
but
I just don't think the fourth line is going to affect whether or not the team is successful.
No, I mean, you could just run the three lines, right?
It could just be another X factor for them, but no, you're right. The big boys are they're a top heavy team.
Sure, can't wait to see how Par Lindholm and Tyler Ennis do. Like, it's really...
There's no risk with Lindholm, though, we should say. I mean, he signed a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, literally, I'm sure by November, they can be like, hey, agent, do you want to go back to Sweden and
we'll let
terminate the contract? I mean...
Like Petri Conciola. Remember that name? No, you don't. And it's a great thing.
Or, Altonen last year, and he's gone back to the KHL after 1 year. But to me, those are zero risk signings. Even Ozaganov now comes over on a 1-year deal on the blue line. Like... I think the Leafs are smart to sign as many of these guys as they can, get them here and see if they have something. And if you do, extend them and keep them. And if not...
But, ice time was an issue. And the reason I want to bring up ice time is because last year they talked about how, and by they, I mean us, we all talked about how the distribution of minutes were...
flashing they.
Yeah, they.
They was the three of us in
Some
this
people
room.
said. No, the media, and I hate using that term, but people in media circles were talking about how
I am the media. Be careful.
One guy. It's just one guy. They were talking about how they tried to keep Matthews and Kadri and a few of these other guys fresh for the playoffs, so they weren't killing them every night. Now, obviously, that rubs some players the wrong way, and especially come playoff time when the minutes didn't go proportionally in Austin Matthews' favor. That created an issue. And, I mean, Mike Babcock flew down to Arizona. We all know that story. What's your sense of how that meeting went? Because we've heard from Mike himself, and he said it went fine. And we've heard from Austin, and he said it went fine, and it was blown out of proportion. But John Shannon of Sportsnet says didn't go well. Not from what he heard.
Call John Shannon a liar.
Well, that's basically how you teed me up.
Yeah. I know. These are the stories we've heard. I'm not trying to but I mean, this is what we've heard. So what is it?
So he is a liar.
See, now...
Thanks, Harvey Levin.
I don't like to be an alarmist media member. And so my understanding of what happened here is that it's probably not the worst thing that some of this came out in the open. And it leads to us discussing it. It leads to them answering questions about it. And all things considered, I'm sure both Mike and Austin would rather not have this be a topic. But I do think that there was some real talk that happened after the year. And look, when you come through a season like that, with the expectations the Leafs had, with the way it ended for Austin, the injuries he dealt with, it was a hard year. It was an emotional year. He wants to be the best player in the world. And he showed a lot of great things when he was healthy last year, but you probably don't look at it like he took the step that he was hoping to take. And so some of that gets directed to Babcock. And, I just don't see it as being that big of an issue. Like, the one thing that everyone forgets is half the players in the league at minimum hate their coach or don't like their coach or have a disagreement with their coach. I mean, we can get into sort of splitting the hair on what it means, but
so it's not a lingering thing?
Well, we'll see.
Oh, no. It's something to be anxious about.
No, but I don't... Look at how many players we know. This is like a loosely guarded secret, if at all, that Mike Babcock, by the time he was done in Detroit, that the best players on that team were more than happy to see him go. Now, those players' best years of their career were when he was their coach. They needling
fell off
them,
a cliff.
being a pain in the ass, pushing them to be better than they think they can be. And I'm sure if you're Austin Matthews, and he's an awesome kid. Like, I don't want to say anything negative about him, but he's still young. And he probably feels like he's made it some days, and Mike doesn't want to see him getting comfortable. So I think that there's a natural tension built into that relationship, no matter what, that Babcock is always going to have to push him a little bit more than he wants to be pushed. And I think he pushed back here, honestly. And look, a lot of it has to do with power play time. And it's a tricky one because the Leafs had one of the best, if not the best power plays in the league.
And it was their second unit. That was great.
Their first unit.
Well, the second unit became the first unit.
Yeah,
What you would assume
the non-Matthews unit carried them to those
exactly.
stats.
Yes.
Which is technically the second unit.
Right.
Yeah.
To start.
Yes, to start, yeah.
Right. And so, I think Austin would like to play more on the power play. And certainly there's the opportunity to do that now. And that's why, to me, I've started to do this checklist because I'm getting a little itchy at home all these days when I'm not watching Killing Eve, or I'm reading Tiger Woods' biography right now. But when I'm not doing those sorts of things, I'm starting to think about camp. And to me, one of the first few days, if not second day, maybe on the ice, when they start showing the power plays, that's going to get my attention because that's a potential for a story if they end up, dividing it up. And
Matthews Tavares on the same power play.
Well, I mean, they could load up, right? They could have Nylander, Marner, Riley with Matthews, Tavares, or something like that.
Oh my God.
That's so
Do you think they'd ever go no defense on the power play?
They've never shown it before, but
Why not?
I mean,
try.
here's the way I'll put that. Someone's going to start doing the NHL.
Yeah.
Because, the 1-4 thing it happened slowly, and then every team all of a sudden did it with one defenseman. I just think it takes it, look at what you're worried about there is that the guy manning the point isn't used to that, and under pressure, he's going to give up shorthanded rushes against, right? That's the only concern about having 5 forwards, that you don't have someone who's comfortable.
Jake.
Yeah.
Like, listen, we're not dumping on Jake Gardiner. We're just talking about what the power play might accomplish this year. Listen,
With guys like Riley and Gardiner, pretty hard to make an argument that the Leafs shouldn't have them on their power play because they are that good.
Yeah.
Especially in an offensive situation. I mean, Riley on defense is a completely different story, and I don't think Jake Gardiner's as bad as he's painted.
no, he's not. It's just fun to make
defense.
fun of things he does.
Of course. It's the Brian McCabe syndrome.
He's going to be even more in the spotlight this year unless he signs an extension. I know
Do you think they will? Do you
they've
think they keep him?
tried, but they're he's in a tough spot because let's face it, his next contract is likely going to be his last
Big one.
chance to take a swing. With where the Leafs are cap wise, we all know, especially not this coming season, but the year after is going to be a squeeze, and that would be the first year of his new deal. And I don't sense he's that willing at the moment to take a big discount. It's not because he wants out of Toronto. I think he's looking out for his future and his family's future. And
Is that a player you look at dealing now because you can potentially recoup assets, or do you just go for it with the team that you have and watch him walk?
I don't know Kyle well enough to know
What he would do?
how he's going to view that. I mean,
What a mystery, eh?
he keeps his cards pretty close. I mean, he's awesome when you see him in his scrums. But he's not. Even though Lou is gone, some of what Lou instituted with his media policy still exists, even under Kyle, just in terms of information flow and things like that. So, if I'm being truthful, I don't have a sense how he's likely to view that. But I think that there's a chance he's traded, honestly. Not necessarily before the season, but during the season if they don't go. I mean, look, I do know for sure they've had talks with his agent this summer, so they've at least got a sense of where things stand. And, they want Jake Gardiner on a deal, like a bargain. And if he's willing to take a little less than he's worth, they could sign it today. I know that. But if you're Jake, it's probably gnawing at him because it's the same thing with James Van Riemsdyk. I mean, it's actually a little different, but JVR, I believe, even going back to last summer, would have signed a 1-year extension with the Leafs then. Like, he didn't want to go into his contract here. He loved Toronto, but he also recognized that it was going to be his chance to get a contract. And look, he got $35 million on a 5-year deal from Philadelphia. I mean, there's no chance the Leafs could entertain that. And I think players, it's tricky, especially for guys that have been in a city for a while. They see what's happening with the team. It's tough to leave money out there. I think a lot of fans say, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. It's a lot of money either way, but these guys have to...
Well, when you're talking about tens of millions of dollars, it's a consideration. You got to go take it because you're not going to get the chance again.
Like,
right?
what Ryan Ellis just got, I think, would be a discount for Jake Gardiner. 625?
Discount for Ryan Ellis.
No,
right?
yes.
But if you look at it, it's interesting.
I don't know how much more Jake would get in free agency, though. Maybe 7?
He's got to be a $7 million guy.
I mean, it depends on the season. Look, he's coming off, 2 50-point seasons.
Yeah.
If he does a third one in a row.
I mean, it's
And the cap's going up. I mean, he probably gets that somewhere.
It's not unrealistic. He
Oh,
could
no,
get
for sure he
50
does.
on this team. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, and we haven't got there yet, the defense still has some question marks. And
well, let's go there. Let's get there.
The coach likes Gardiner. I think that's important here too. And Mike Babcock has more faith in him than most fans do, or a big segment of the fan base anyway. I shouldn't say most. And so, I don't think they're going to be trying to run him out of time either. It's just going to be about managing the asset if he doesn't want to sign a deal that they find amenable.
Gardiner's that friend I apologize for, but keep bringing to parties. You know what I mean?
Just because you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah,
Guys,
sometimes
trust me.
You love having him around.
Yeah, trust me. He's great. Just wait till like 11 o'clock. See, he's going to do something nuts. He had so many games where, like, even his biggest detractors, like, you just point at him and go, look, 90% of the players in the league can't do that.
Is he the only
He
player
had
that can skate?
500-foot passes that led directly to a goal.
yeah.
Like ridiculous, like off a face-off, just kind of look around like wham.
Yeah.
or the fact that he could skate the puck backwards from behind the Leafs net all the way to the red line untouched.
Yeah.
He'd be skating backwards.
Oh, did you see that Nylander goal? Yeah, did you see who got him the puck? It was Jake, man.
Yeah. So, and I mean, on the Leafs defense, Kyle.
So Kyle values that.
Well, of course. How could you not? But I mean, as fans, it's the Brian McCabe thing.
But Kyle's not going to focus, I don't think, as much on some of the glaring errors because he'll look at the broader numbers, what they suggest in terms of how the Leafs control the puck when Jake's on the ice.
So this is the interesting thing. Having Tavares come on board, takes away responsibilities from Matthews. Maybe takes away responsibilities from Kadri as well. What is that for Gardiner? Like, it can't be pummeling Ron Hainsey into the Earth's crust again, right?
I don't hope not. I mean, I don't know what the D pairs are going to look like. I mean,
I have no idea. Yeah.
If they come back with Riley and Hainsey, I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
And that was the plan from training camp last year. And so when they were both healthy, because I know Morgan missed some time, but when they were both healthy, they basically played together a huge percentage of the season. And
started off okay.
Oh, yeah. It just the second half was tough on Ron Hainsey.
Yeah. And he had that illness, right?
Didn't he? Yeah, the illness, and so did Zaitsev, yeah.
And that kind of knocked him out. But, yeah, like, I mean, with those pairings, do you think Mike Babcock's the kind of guy who's open to just seeing what the heck sticks? Like, because Morgan Riley and Jake Gardiner are L1, L2, and then you probably have
Or do you?
Or do you? Or, yeah, maybe put them together.
You can move one of them to the right side, which has happened before.
Well, could you put Riley and Gardiner together? Would they do that?
I don't know. They've played together before.
Numbers suggest that they should.
I brought it up earlier, but Ian Tulloch was on, I think it was Good Show a few weeks ago, and he brought up a few things. One was potentially icing 7 defense because you basically don't need your fourth line.
Right. I saw that. That was smart.
Yeah, but I don't know if their defense is good enough to ice it.
Well, and what he suggested,
let's get Martin Marincin some minutes.
What he suggested, you have Martin Marincin as a utility guy who can maybe kill penalties. That was my first thought. But why not also, another one of his suggestions was why not try Riley Gardiner? Because over the years or whatever that they've played together in the sample size, they're like a top 10 pairing in the league, just based on, I don't know what metrics he used. We can all fight over metrics and stuff like that, but it's a dang good pairing.
And then do you think from and we're going to, I want to deep dive on the defense here because that's the biggest question mark. The Travis Dermott 37-game sample size, is that big enough for you to say he can play top 4 minutes?
Top 4. Wow.
It's big enough to try it, I think. I mean, he was really good.
This is assuming Riley and Gardiner become a pair.
Context is always important, right? I mean, and so when you look at the minutes Travis Dermott played in those 37 games, it was a lot of third pairing, sheltered type of situations. So, yeah, his Corsi numbers were great. But I think that there was a little more going on there, too. I mean, this guy exceeded even some of the internal expectations. People were high on him. Obviously, he got that promotion, he got to play, but he really took that and ran with it, I thought. And had a rough game or two in the playoffs, which I think you can give him a pass on. I mean, to me, he's earned a look there. But there's so many ways they can go with this. I mean, what are we going to have? Nikita Zaitsev has had 2 sort of very different seasons as an NHL player. So you could argue that he's one of the most important guys on the team just because he eats up a fair bit of cap space and he's got a long contract. I mean, figuring out what he is and where you can play him is going to be interesting. And then when we get to the third pair, we just got all these other guys.
Yeah, like you got to think.
Who's going to play? Like,
that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah,
all these other guys.
Well, you've got Ron Hainsey's still a serviceable player. It's just you can't run him out there 20 minutes a night. It's too much.
And I don't mean that they're all bad. I don't know what it's going to look like. It feels like a bit of a soup. And which 2 meatballs are coming out with the next scoop,
But could you see, I don't know, Riley Gardiner, Dermott, Zaitsev, and we're hoping to get 85 to 90% of Nikita Zaitsev back? Assuming he doesn't get hurt and he doesn't get ill. And
probably not to start, for being realistic.
Okay.
I don't know, though. I mean, look, Mike Babcock is literally sitting at his fire, writing down, that's his big thing. He sits at his fire up in Saskatchewan and writes down
Of course he does. Of course he freaking does. He's probably got plaid shorts on, too.
Yeah, I felt like a nerd until a second ago. Thank you for that. That's great.
Amazing.
and scratches all this down and debates it. And what's interesting last year is he called Morgan Riley at the start of July, basically after they signed Hainsey, and said, Hainsey's your partner. And apparently that was like the discussion. Like it was basically like, Ron Hainsey's your partner, just so you know, okay, bye. Basically, that there wasn't a lot of, this is what we expect or this is why we think it'll work. There wasn't a lot of rationale provided. But, I have to suspect maybe some of these guys have a feeling where they're going to be. I don't know. There's a lot of mystery here. At least I have a lot of pieces, and there's still a possibility for a trade. I think that...
Even this late?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you can't rule... It's not going to be the trade, though, that stops the presses, I don't think.
It's not the TSN trade Nylander for every right-handed defenseman trade.
No.
Yes.
It's
Man, someone... I shouldn't say this, but whatever.
Say it.
Someone who is in the industry sent me a screen grab of all the TSN trade Nylander headlines.
Oh my God.
And it's actually comical. Like there's I'm not joking, there's 40.
Yeah.
And I get it. A lot of their talent get radioed. Like they go on one of the stations and just muse about something and it becomes a story. But it's almost like a campaign. And I know it's not actually a campaign. It's just a prevailing thought that's that's been in the wind perplexingly for.
My favorite thing
people
was
keep going, how are they going to afford them? Look around the league at how many teams have like a 10, 10, and 8 kind of situation. There's actually a fair bit.
Cap Friendly is a website. Like,
Yeah.
just go there. That's how. Look at all the space. They're
Right.
fine.
It's just that we have too many toys. We don't know what to do with them right now. And I think with regards to like the first thing that I remember seeing about this trade Nylander stuff was if the Leafs had gotten VC, Nylander would have been traded by now.
Oh, that was.
And I remember who said it.
Drager.
And no, I don't even think it was it Drager.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I actually thought it was someone else, but it doesn't matter. Regardless,
That one didn't age well.
No.
it sure didn't.
That's like an orange that we stuck in Steve's backpack back in October. And like, wait, what happened to this?
Did you go to my elementary school? Someone did that to me.
I actually once did that to James Myrtle.
No way, really?
True story. He came to my house years ago and we were drinking a bit and he was being kind of like, he's a funny guy, but he was being a bit of a pain in the ass. And so I grabbed an orange
Not
and stuck it in his
James.
backpack and he found it like months later. I have the picture somewhere.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that was.
We'll have to ask him
It's
about
not
that.
like I just pulled a hypothetical out there. That was a real world example.
That's amazing.
A round of applause.
So that was the VC Nylander take in Myrtle's backpack, just getting carried around for months.
See, that's dangerous now because, like, what's the revenge? Is it coming?
It's years later, man. He's had 2 kids since then, so like he's probably forgotten. He's got
think
like
so?
baby brain. Oh
The
yeah.
long con.
It's the long. Maybe it's
Long-
happening right now and you don't even know it.
Long like his limbs.
You haven't figured it out.
The problem is I've said it here, so he's going to be reminded of it somehow.
yeah, it's coming. It's
I'm
coming.
no one will tweet him. Don't worry.
I'll dig up the picture and share it.
Oh, yes. That's amazing. Yeah, I got to see that.
Please do. That's amazing. Okay, so if there is a trade, because of course, this is going to be the part that Sportsnet pulls out. Chris Johnson says Leafs still may make a trade. This is going to be the thing that makes the headlines on sportsnet.ca. But in context here, if we're talking about a trade, we're not talking about anything big, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look at the only big trade at this moment is if Erik Karlsson became a Leaf. I mean, of players that, and obviously that would be gargantuan, but I don't see that many guys that I would classify as a big trade that are available at this point.
Like move the needle trade.
Like a right shooting defenseman, yeah. I just don't really see it. And so, and I don't see Ottawa ever trading Erik Karlsson to the Leafs.
No, I don't think so.
Like,
Like
fold the team. Like, if you do that, man.
Over Eugene's, you know what? I mean, like there's no
You're
chance.
giving the heart and soul of the Ottawa. You're giving the best player the Senators have ever had to their number one rival.
Right, and I'm led to believe one of the things that's held that trade up in general is moving Karlsson is that Eugene won't approve, some of the deals that have been out there. So, and I get it. Look, if you're going to do this, you got to be sure as an organization. Like and it seems like they're going to do it. I still believe that's going to happen at some point. So let's take him out of the conversation because I really don't think there's much reality there. Then
Is there
Who?
is Chris Tanev a needle mover? He's a top 4 right-handed guy. He plays about 40 games a year.
Other than the fact he plays in Vancouver, I don't think he's a needle mover. If you found out Leafs trade for Chris Tanev, would you freak out, Steve? Or
I'd be pretty excited. Yeah.
you're my barometer. So
I mean,
would it be all caps in your Twitter feed or?
Well, if they give up Nylander, yes.
Because I saw all caps yesterday for that Reichel
Should
Oh, yeah. Because I'm bored, man. I'm
You're
bored.
watching Leafs highlights from February, and you're like, wow.
Now that the basement's done, like I got nothing else dragging my focus, and I'm amped for the season, man. So I'm like, Reichel for Shinkarik, that's crazy.
Like,
hell yeah.
So it would just be sort of like, I mean, is it going to be a player that can differentiate themselves from a Marincin, Justin Hall, Ron Hainsey? Like, is it going to be a player above that level?
Potentially.
If it
I could
happens?
see them giving themselves more depth.
And what do you do?
Let's face
you
it,
flip a
some of
first
it's
for that, or like what do you? Because you can't give off the roster, right? At this point,
I think you can give off the roster. You know, the Leafs still have some prospects, and they have. There's probably a trade out there that could be made.
Okay.
But again, I just don't think it's going to blow everyone out of the water. But there's still 3 weeks to training camp. I'm sure someone's getting invited on a PTO that's a center or that can play center.
do you think Nick Shore?
If he wants to come, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you have to just bring some depth to a training camp, right?
Sure.
And so, and I also think I am actually kind of coming around to Mike Babcock's thinking on this, that the Leafs, the focus on their defense is a little bit overstated.
Why do you say that?
Because they finished 6th overall last year with objectively a worse defense than they're going to have now and a worse team than they're going to have now. And that's not to say it's clearly the weakest part of specifically right-hand shot defenseman is if we're going to like pick apart the super team, that's where the string comes undone. But let's imagine a world where Timothy Liljegren turns into the player the Leafs think he can be in a year or two. All of a sudden, that problem isn't as bad as it used to be because you're going to have him playing here for $925,000. And so, and I do think there's some useful guys in the organization that can get you through. And I've just seen enough. You know, Nate Schmidt was really good for Vegas, but they had a lot of guys after that, and they were in the Cup final.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like run down Colin Miller or, you know,
But they're not.
Derek Anglin, like nice guys. I mean, it's that, but
Oh, yeah.
no one was looking at their blue line projections and going like, wow, how do we get through this? And they beat Winnipeg in 5.
yeah, they beat him in 5.
The
That
Pittsburgh
was-
team that won the cup 2 years ago had
Yeah.
nobody left on
Ron
defense at the end of
Hainsey.
it. Ron Hainsey was one of them. Yeah.
So I do think that because everyone wants everything perfect in sports.
Sure.
Perfect doesn't exist. And I think the Leafs can find ways to use what they have and just be a machine still.
My thing is always just that the mobility and the ability to get the puck out of the zone. Like you can't have another situation where Boston's
Polak
dumping.
isn't going to be out there.
And that's a huge, like, I don't care what anyone says. I will debate them to death. Polak was a huge problem in the playoffs last year. Every single time Boston dumped it in, it was on his side, and he had to flip it over
He
to
played
Dermott to try
better
to get it
later
out.
in the year, though.
He did.
For sure.
But there
Oh,
is-
March
Yeah.
Polak? Great.
if you don't have that mobility, and that was the thing that he lacked. It's not that he wasn't useful. It's just that the mobility that he lacked really was glaring in those, and they really took advantage of. Bruce Cassidy really, I thought, had a very strong strategic series against the Leafs.
Yep.
Despite the fact that he almost lost it, and I think
Turgarash was
if you have
The
a
best
guy,
line in the NHL just churned through them,
Oh
too.
my God.
scary line.
I mean, they had
damn
a
line.
couple dips. You know, Bergeron missed the one game, but they were ridiculous.
Same.
Bergeron missed the one game and they won.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh my God.
That was the
don't
opportunity.
remind me of game 4. Don't remind me.
Were you at that one?
You bet.
Was that the
was-
one where you met the Matthewses?
No, that was 3, which was the best night of my life.
Yeah.
And that was great.
Not the night you got married. No.
No.
You already forgot what day that was anyway. I mean,
Man, I had to pay for that. Like, no, the game 3 was free. It was awesome.
I bet you're gonna remember your anniversary of meeting the Matthews parents more than you're gonna remember the actual anniversary.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah. Brother, I
There's
mean,
gonna be like a video that next year on that day, like all the pictures, flashbacks.
I will remember. Yeah, like all the music and everything. It's going to be great.
Sorry, I'm getting us wildly off
No,
topic.
it's okay.
Yeah, on this show, never.
Never, not at all. Well, no,
It's August. Like my brain's like, woo. It's,
Dude, the first 20
It's like
minutes
the
of the show
CNE
was
in my head.
guessing February. Yeah.
So we just like, I guess my question is it, I mean, if it's not that bad, is it just mobility and are they going to be looking at like, how do we get the puck out of our zone as quickly as possible to get to the forwards? Is that sort of because the forward, and is it more the forwards need to start playing some defense too? Because there was a little bit of lackadaisical.
Yes.
yes, I think that's got to be part of it. I mean, and I think the guys get that. The hard part, I think, is going to be keeping everyone engaged. Because if they're as good as it looks like they should be, they're going to have that playoff spot wrapped up pretty early.
January, maybe.
Maybe not have the official X, but, maybe be comfortably ahead of it. Guys,
like they were this year. Yeah.
Guys are going to be chasing some individual things. I mean, they could have some big point seasons. Matthews is still in a year where he can get the big bonuses. So when it gets to January, February, March, he's only human.
Sure.
If you could do something for $2 million, you'd be probably keeping an eye on what it might be. Even with the promise of riches to come, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Back of the mind kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, he missed that because he was injured. He missed the $2 million bonus this year. So,
he also said he wanted to have more assists than goals.
I found that fascinating.
And that was,
I like that.
Fascinating, yeah.
I like that.
And he went out and he scored 40 plus goals, and now you want to top that with assists?
And Nylander's like, sure.
Yeah. So 40.
It's kind of like the reverse Crosby. Because early in his career, the first year he had 106 points.
Something like that, yeah.
He's looking to Steve for confirmation.
It was 100. I think Ovechkin had 106.
Okay.
And Sid had, I think, 36 goals and 64 assists. Does that math work?
I'm on it.
And then he decided he wanted to be a scorer. And he ended up having 50-goal seasons and stuff and won a couple Rocket Richards. I mean, I'm not saying he copied Crosby, but it just reminds you of the brain of someone who's exceptional, is that he's looking for a small weakness in his game and looking to add a different element. But I don't see it happening, really.
No? I mean, how? I mean, Nylander.
He's just such a good shooter. I mean, to me...
And Marleau's not getting... Marleau's racking up double the goals.
The power play is where it could happen.
Yeah.
He didn't have very many power play points in his second season, Austin.
That's probably part of the issue, right?
I remember towards the end of the season, that unit, particularly Nylander and Austin, got hot, but Matthews scored a goal one night and he was freaking out, and they said on the broadcast it was his second power play goal of the season or something bizarre like that. In 81 games apiece in their rookie seasons, Crosby had 102 points, Ovechkin had 106.
There you go. But he had 30-something goals, Crosby, right?
I think so.
39.
39.
There it is.
But
That's
then,
incredible.
But then he set about trying to score more, and he had 50-goal season after that. Because, that's what you have to do. I mean, you can always be better, right? So I find it interesting that Austin said that to Jonas Siegel. I just don't see how it works. I mean, I guess, it looks like he's going to start with Patrick Marleau now. So Zach Hyman, who doesn't have the best hands. He's got a lot of good intentions, but maybe there's more opportunities at 5-on-5. But to me, he just shoots so well, and he's shot with a fair amount of volume that I'm not saying he can't get more assists, but how about scoring 50 goals? Why limit yourself?
Yeah, it seemed like last season the line was set up so everybody just gets Matthews the puck so he can shoot it. And I don't know why you would change that this year when it seems so successful last year.
Maybe score off rebounds more.
Yeah, and I wonder
with
Patrick Marleau on that line, Patrick Marleau's getting 29 goals and 15 assists every year. I think Patrick Marleau's a big finisher. So that, that gets Matthews, say he gets 15 assists.
But Father Time is coming due there. I don't know when. But it hangs over things a little bit.
Well, I mean, listen, if Zach Hyman can get 40 points with Austin, I feel like Patrick Marleau still can. Right? He still can.
His final season in San Jose and his first season in Toronto, the points almost identical. Same amount of goals. I think he had one more assist.
He had a few empty net goals last year.
He did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You're right. Okay.
I'm not trying to dog him. But
but you're right. You're absolutely right.
Marleau Island coming soon.
Yeah, Sportsnet on Twitter.
Well, the trick is that the third year of his contract is the year they're going to have a contract squeeze. He makes 6.25 against the cap.
I think he'll develop.
The actual money is low, much like Matt Martin's deal.
Right.
So there's a potential. He has a full no move, but there's a potential that this could be his last season in Toronto if they convinced him that he had to go.
Or, that he suddenly developed an allergy to his own equipment.
Hypothetically speaking.
Do
you know what, though? He's an Iron Man. He ain't doing that.
No, absolutely not. But, if hey, Patrick, do you want to go back to San Jose?
That's the only play that I can see.
Yeah, and I think he would probably do that.
Leafs eat some money, maybe.
It's a hard conversation to have, though, because you signed him. And
Well, and if the Leafs are on the cusp, how do you tell them, all right, scram? That's hard, man.
That's
hey, thanks for getting us here. Now beat it.
Well,
beat it, Mr. Full.
I'm just saying, it will be something to watch if he underperforms.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
Just because they have a squeeze. I mean, they love the guy, but
of course, absolutely.
This is a dollar and cents cap league.
What's the Ryan Whitney saying? You're meat.
Yeah.
If you're a player, you're just meat.
Calvin Pickard's being shopped. Does that surprise you that it's happening now?
No.
Because It's like, wouldn't they want to see if there's a thing between Sparks and Pickard come camp, or is Sparks now the backup goalie and that's what
I think Sportsnet's got a better chance of trading me than the Leafs have trading Pickard right now.
Okay.
Myself. I mean, how many third goalies around the league are getting moved in August?
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that get waved out there in August makes it, people are focused on it or talking about it. But, the Leafs have an issue where they have, 4 goalies on one-way contracts now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's rough.
I mean, it's not that the Leafs care so much about the money, but those guys are all going to have to go through, whoever goes down has to go through waivers.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Curtis McElhinney has to make it through waivers, right?
Okay, but one of Pickard or Sparks, or maybe both of them are going to be on waivers, probably just Pickard. And so if you could theoretically trade him now, why not try? Because, there's a few teams still looking for goaltenders. We saw Dustin Tokarski sign with the Rangers this week. Steve Mason still doesn't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
Kari Lehtinen doesn't have one. I don't know that Kari's going to be back in the NHL. It might be it for him. But my point is there are probably a few teams sniffing around the bargain bin, and I don't think it's the worst idea to try to get something for him. They traded, a 6th-round pick, I believe, for Pickard.
6th in Lindbergh.
Yeah, which was just a contract slot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know he's got Oshawa connections, but...
Hey, Memorial Cup champion Tobias Lindbergh.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
But... yeah, but so if you could get that back, I'm sure they would trade him. But I don't think it's a huge story. I don't see him being in the mix.
Is Sparks just that much better?
He just had such a great year last year, and he's at that age
where you have to do it or not.
You got to figure out what he is or not, or give him a chance to go somewhere else. Now that Lou's gone, one thing I think is gone is like keeping Frankie Corrado around or Josh Levo around as non-player players.
Do you think Josh Levo will be gone too?
I think he likely will.
Okay.
If there's no role for him. I mean, you can't rule out a chance for him on the 4th line, but given what we've seen in the past, like Babcock doesn't seem to like him there, unless there's an injury, I do think that they will try to find a spot for him. I worry for him though. I mean, look, the guy's made good money to be a practice player, but he hasn't played 2 years. I mean, other teams, I know teams for a fact 2 years ago had huge interest in him that are just like, well, now the world passes you by pretty quickly in pro sports.
So is he like the world's biggest Leafs fan? Like he just wants to be a Leaf that bad? Like surely they could have found a place for him if he wanted it.
Yeah, but it was Lou too, right? Like Lou doesn't give away anything. Like I know of one team in particular that was just going crazy with Lou and the talk about trying to trade for Josh Levo. Because like he was acting like he had, a real asset there. And at that point, I mean, look, it's like a car that doesn't work. You don't even know if the car runs at this point. We haven't seen it on the highway in years.
Or you could get the mystery box.
Yeah.
Right.
2nd round pick.
So I do think some of it is Lou. The biggest question is why did he sign his extension last year when he did? And to me, it was just about taking the guaranteed money the Leafs were offering because he might have got to this summer or not. There's a lot of guys out there signing 2-way deals right now. And it's hard to me, Josh Levo probably was getting a 2-way deal if he didn't sign somewhere else. So he got a guaranteed 1-year deal with the Leafs, and that might be the end of him unless he can find a way to make some hay this season.
Interesting.
More importantly, and no offense
He's a big
to
Leafs fan, I think.
Yeah.
He's buddies with all the guys on the team. Like
He's in all the photos. Yeah, I pay attention.
Oh, you're such a jerk.
I pay attention to Instagram.
you put
I didn't mean
yourself
the
in
team
the photos.
I mean, I would absolutely Photoshop myself into all the photos.
William Nylander's contract will get done. We know that. It gets done. But a lot of times what happens, it's like what Pasternak, it was kind of close to the wire. When you
Pasternak, for context, missed a day of camp last year before signing his deal.
And that's happened many times before, but in a contract situation like this, you know that you're heading to a certain point, right? The team knows, the player knows. We know it's going to be it has to be between Dylan Larkin and David Pasternak in terms of money.
Depending on years. If they went 8 years, it would be more.
More money, and which might make more sense.
But on a 5 or 6 year deal, yeah.
What's your sense of where this is at, and what holds these things up? Like, why can't they just get on the phone and go, all right, you in? Okay, cool. Like, what is it?
Because you're waiting for the other side to blink. And there's no deadline right now. I mean, the deadline, and it's an artificial deadline, is September 13th when the players are due to arrive and take their medicals. And so, to me, I wouldn't be surprised, given that it's, what are we at, August 21st? I wouldn't be surprised if it goes till like 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th of September, where you have that looming. Okay, is he actually going to miss camp? I'm assuming he'd stay in Sweden to kind of underline his point. Like, I'm not caving here. Well, that's what Pasternak did. He stayed in the Czech Republic and then flew over and went straight like from the airport to Bruins' second day of camp.
Wow.
After to sign his deal and all that. I mean, that's the game. And so I think it's very likely that this goes down to that kind of wire, and maybe he misses a day or two. I'd be surprised if it gets to like missing games in the regular season. But he's a strong-minded kid, William. He's not, because agents can only do so much in these situations. I mean, if their client is like, I got to play, he's getting crazy, his teammates are texting him, he's just like, just take the deal. I mean, that happens a lot. I mean, you're trying to exert pressure as a team. It's unstated, but that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get him to cave and take less than his value. And, but let's not forget, he's the son of an NHLer. His dad is heavily involved. His dad is basically his agent, but he's not certified by the NHLPA. So he has an agent, obviously, but his dad is very in the mix on this behind the scenes. And I think so both sides kind of know where each other are at. They know probably where the number is deep down, but no one's making that first move on the dance floor, like to really try to get it done. And it probably gets done in middle of September would be my guess.
Okay. And that's,
so you might miss a couple days.
Yeah, but I still wouldn't freak out about that if I was a fan. I mean, I think it will largely be forgotten. And remember, one of Kadri's contracts, he had a few as an RFA, so I get mixed up. But one of them happened, I believe, the day before camp, or like it's a normal thing. And if you look out there, other teams, Noah Hannafin doesn't have a deal, Darnell Nurse doesn't have a deal, Sam Reinhart doesn't have a deal with Buffalo. I mean, there's a lot of guys in the exact same situation coming off their entry-level contract. And just put yourself in William Nylander's shoes just for this minute and forget any deeper concerns with the Leafs. You're just trying to squeeze out what you can. And I can't really blame him for that.
No, not at all. I wouldn't blame him for that.
Well, remember that the players in this league, and now we're going way off the record here, but the players were sold down the river by the previous players. And so they have this entry-level system where William Nylander just scored back-to-back 60-point seasons and got paid like a fourth liner because that's the system that they're in. Yeah. So, I mean, you only have such a small window as a player. I mean, it'll feel like William Nylander is going to be around forever, but some careers are ending at 31, 32, and he's 22? I mean, he's got 10 years to make hay here, and that goes quick. So it's a big financial decision for him, especially because I would expect this deal to be in the 5-6 year range myself. There's a chance to go 2 or 3, which we've seen other players do on their second deal, but more than likely it's going longer. And so $500,000 is worth fighting over.
Yeah, that was interesting to me because at Smash Fest, Nylander made a couple of headlines by saying he wanted to sign long-term, and I think everyone, myself included, just automatically went, oh, he means 8. But 5 or 6 is pretty long.
It is long.
So that could be long-term.
Well, because you're giving up, if it's a 5-year deal, you're giving up 1 potential UFA year, and if it's 6, you're giving up 2. And those cost more in the equation, too. And so, this is what it boils down to if you're the Leafs, and they've definitely run all these projections over and over and over again. There's a benefit to getting him for 8 years because you've basically locked up his entire prime as an NHL player. Mm-hmm. But the actual cap hit's going to be higher because you're buying more of the UFA years on it.
Right.
And so there's a competitive advantage to have him on a lower cap number for these next number of years because they can fit other players in around them when they have a chance to win. And I'm sure that's kind of the fine line the Leafs are looking to walk. And, players in hockey want security because they could blow out their knee or have 3 concussions in a season. And,
that's it.
I know lots of guys, I find the NBA offseason more interesting too. When you have, star players signing short-term deals and moving around and, that's people talk about that more in the games in the NBA. I just don't see a world where we're going to get that in hockey because of the risks involved in the sport.
Do you see a situation or a scenario arising where, and I don't see this for Mitch Marner, but where Austin Matthews signs his extension this year rather than next summer?
Yeah, because, I mean, to me, that number is there.
That's the number's the number, right?
Well,
and what is the number?
So this is how this argument is going so far. There's 2 contracts signed last summer that directly impact both him and Patrick Laine's next deal. You have Eichel at $10 million on an 8-year deal, and you have Connor McDavid at $12.5 on an 8-year deal. So to me, if you're Austin Matthews, you run the numbers and say, hey, look, I'm better than Eichel so far as an entry-level player. But you can't.
I'm not Connor
It's hard
McDavid.
to make the Connor McDavid argument because he'd won a Hart Trophy and a scoring title as an entry-level player when he signed that deal. So to me, and you just happen to have the superstar that just joined your team at $11 million. That's kind of right in the middle, and 8 times 11 to me makes a ton of sense for Austin. It's up to his agents to fight for a bit more. And the way they would do that is say, and I don't have the number in front of me, but when Connor McDavid signed at 12.5, let's pull out an arbitrary number that's somewhere in the correct, it's about 17% of the cap. They would argue the cap's gone up. Austin should be 17% of the cap, and that might be a way for an agent to try to argue. So it's not so much about McDavid, it's more saying, hey, in today's dollars, it should be higher. And so I'm sure that's there, but to me, that one just makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're still fighting about, you would fight or debate about how the signing bonus money worked, about what you do with the lockout years.
Mm-hmm. Which, if I'm him, I would just do what Tavares did. I want all bonus. Don't you want to go all bonus?
He doesn't have Tavares' leverage, though.
Yeah, I guess
Tavares was a UFA.
I have the number here, by the way. It was 16.7% of the cap.
I guess 17%.
When McDavid signed. And Crosby's was 17.3%.
When he signed. But
Right.
that's $8.7 million. Amazing how much the cap's gone up.
Percentage of the cap.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And that's the thing I think Leaf fans have to keep this in mind. All fans have to keep this in mind, especially with the new expansion money, assuming they don't go to a lockout. The money that Seattle's going to inject into this league, that cap is going up. The cap is going up. And it's going to go up. I mean, if we look at where was it 3 years ago? 72? And now we're at almost 80?
I think it was less.
So think about where it'll be in the next 3 years. And I mean, obviously, yes, we have a lockout potentially, but we can talk about that a little bit later in the show if we get time for it. I feel like we're looking at a $90 million cap here in about 3 years.
If all goes well, it should happen. And that was the thinking when Chicago signed Taves and Kane to the big deals, is that 10.5 for them looked huge at the time, or $21 million for 2 players, but Stan Bowman was saying, look over the length of that deal. It's not going to be, you almost have to adjust your thinking to, it's not $21 million in yesterday's dollars,
right.
It's tomorrow's dollars.
And those contracts aren't killing them. It's Brent Seabrook's contract that's killing them, among other things. And Corey Crawford not being healthy.
And they're older.
And they traded Panarin for Saad. So, yeah.
Well, that's a few things. Right?
A few things. I guess, I mean, come on, that's a few things. But my point remains is those contracts are not the ones killing the Hawks.
Also, you got a lot of heat for that.
There's no heat to be had. It's not a debate.
You called it the worst trade in the history of the NHL?
No, I said it's the worst trade since the 1 for 1 day. Since the Subban for Weber and the Hall for Larson.
Looking back,
it is the worst trade since that day.
I think that can be a little bit hyperbole, and also a lot of the criticism of what you said is also hyperbole. Like they were trying to convince me that it was great, and I'm like, look what happened to you.
Yeah,
look what happened to your team. No, it wasn't. So
a career 55-point guy for a career 80-point guy.
I would say it was bad. Move on.
But the reason they did it is that they would have the same problem Columbus has right now with Artemi Panarin, is that he was going to be a year out from UFA this summer, and they knew they couldn't afford him in their cap structure.
Sure, but in that case, wouldn't you take 2 years of Artemi Panarin over 6 years of Brandon Saad? I would.
I would, yes, but you could see it's an important piece of context of why they made that deal.
Yeah. Sure.
They were dealing for certainty from a position knowing they probably couldn't keep Panarin at what he was going to be worth.
Right.
Context is dumb.
It's a little much to call it the worst trade.
It is the worst trade since those trade.
History of pro sports. I never called it the history of pro sports. So
what's amazing,
just calm down a little.
Todd for Nylander.
What's amazing is that Panarin could go back there as a UFA. I mean, that wouldn't really surprise anybody at this point.
No, his agent already leaking that out. Oh, Panarin would consider going back. And it's like, well, of course he would consider. Sign the check. Sign the check. I would consider
From what
that
I understand, he would consider New York, LA, anywhere that's really good to live.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
With no knocks on Columbus, but it's more of a family kind of vibe than a city.
Yeah.
Right. I got you.
Which is why he's...
Sneaky good restaurant town, though.
Yeah?
Is it?
And the Columbus All-Star Game was an all-timer.
It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. Fun was had.
That is the drunkest I've ever been with NHL players.
There it is. All right.
At least you come out and say it.
No,
but it was insane.
That was the Scott year, right? The John Scott year?
No, that was Nashville, 2016.
Yeah. Right. Oh my God, of course that happened in Nashville.
No, there was someone I was with who just looked down at the ice and was just like, wow, he's here. And I'm like, who? Kessel. Kessel had a banger of a night the night before the Columbus All-Star game.
See, I didn't see him. He wasn't part of the people I saw out late.
It was all of them. Like, people watch the All-Star game and think, oh, they're just not trying. They don't care about this. No, dude, they're hung over. I wouldn't be surprised if, like,
and they should be, because all their teammates are hung over in Cabo. Like,
exactly.
They have to go to Columbus on their week off.
I love to know how many of those guys, when they hit the ice, like for warm up, would pass a breathalyzer test. I'm willing to bet half would fail.
Wow.
That's aggressive.
That's aggressive, man.
I don't think so.
Well, it is an afternoon
All-Star
start
game?
usually.
Yeah.
Still, man. Still.
So
I'm hearing 5, 6 a.m.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't make it that late, but it was still going when I left late.
Yeah.
Like
same.
late. There was like
It's
guys.
all on recorded, by the way.
I know.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's why I'm not naming names, because it's not fair to them.
Yeah.
But like, there was an NHL player dancing with a broom.
That's amazing.
There was a player that I don't even know. Like, I actually know him better now, but I didn't know him personally. And I was at another table with one other journalist, like standing up, and he kept ordering beers to our table till it was like overflowing and just like cackling and laughing. And I still don't really know why he was doing it. Like, he probably clearly recognized that we were media guys, but I don't know why he just filled our table and like
Just
kept
trying to
going the
overflow
waiter.
you guys? That's amazing.
Well, because he
could.
knows
Yes.
reporters can't refuse a drink, and tomorrow is going to be really difficult for you.
Right, but like, I don't know why. Again, if it's someone you know or it's like a joke. Anyway,
Right.
It was a generous joke, but it was anyway bonkers. I don't know why I'm talking about this. This is summer.
That's very
That
funny.
was definitely
That's
Ovechkin.
very
No,
funny.
no. It was a more under the radar player.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you
That
have-
actually, Columbus was the last time they did the draft, right? Because all the guys were hammered.
Yeah.
All the guys were hammered there.
Oh, that's fun.
That's true. That's the last time they
Yeah.
did the draft.
That makes sense.
That
And
was
then they switched to
honestly,
3-on-3.
It didn't stop the whole weekend based on what I saw.
really.
And I also know
That's
there's
when Ovechkin was super weird, right? Like behind the scenes at the draft?
maybe.
Was it? He kept saying, "Don't pick me. I don't want to be picked." He wanted to be last because he wanted the car.
Yes, I believe that was.
And then when he got picked, he was mad. He was like, "Oh, what?" Yeah.
As though he couldn't afford the GNC
So-
they were going to give him.
Since you remember everything, that was Team Nick Foligno versus what team?
Oh, my God.
Oh,
wow.
Team Nick Foligno against.
Actually, was it Team Foligno? Yeah, I think it was Team Foligno.
I want to say, oh man.
I'm glad you're looking this up, Jesse, because I
I got the
I
All-Star
remember it
game
was
right
the
here.
worst game in the history of All-Star games. It was worse than anything. That's
it
why
like-
they changed it in Nashville the next year.
It's like, oh man. I don't remember.
Remember they had like the white and green uniforms?
Yes.
like, just-
I have one. I have the
And the-
black and green one at Stamkos because I wanted to lure him to
Do you have
Toronto.
a guess? It was Team Foligno, by the way, and there's another team.
Was that Team Lidstrom?
It was not, no.
Oh.
Team someone from Nashville.
Trees Bergeron.
Team Ryan Johansson?
Team Taves.
Oh.
Hey,
yeah.
Ryan Johansson, that was when he put on the football jersey.
Right.
Yes.
And Ryan Johansson had a bit, I think he was the MVP of the All-Star game.
Yeah, well, he was great because we all left that building deaf because they played they
cannon.
blasted the damn cannon. Every goal, and it set a record for goals in an All-Star game.
And do you remember at the end when they traded Sagan for Kessel?
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then they raced each other, and Kessel won. Toronto Maple Leaf, Phil Kessel won.
Do you have any bold predictions for this season? Do you have anything that in your gut, it doesn't have to be Leafs, but like in your gut that you're like, I think this is going to happen. I don't think anyone's talking about it.
Oh, man.
Josh Leavell, Conn Smythe. Wait, what are you showing me, Jesse?
I have to think about that. What do you see?
No, I was just
Pictures of me in that bar in Columbus.
Dean didn't have to say it out
My bad.
loud.
They're
to
being
disrupt the
extremely
show.
distracting
We always have
right
each other
now.
on this show. I'm
Which
so
is what
sorry.
We, as in you.
Jesse's like, here, I'm going to pass you a note. Steve's like, what is that? What is that?
What is
Do you
written
like me?
on
Yes,
that?
no,
You
maybe.
that all the time. Whatever.
Continue.
How many
Whatever.
people are still listening this deep into the show?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Too
majority.
many, frankly. Like, they should not.
You would
but
be-
they just keep coming back.
I love whoever's listening right now. Like, that is some dedication.
You know how many people are listening right now and it's 2:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
As soon as I put it up at like 1 a.m., there's a flood of messages that are like, no sleep squad.
Yeah.
And they're my favorite.
And they're like, oh, now I have to listen to it all the way through. No, you don't.
No.
No, you don't. Like, YouTube is even smart enough that like you could listen to a little bit next morning, click the link again, it'll pick right back up where you were.
You can't do it.
It's the craziest thing. Like on Kiss,
Like I feel like we're like the vampire squad right now, but you
Yeah.
still got to like package this, put it up, and
Yeah.
people are going to still listen later
Yes.
tonight.
Oh, yeah.
and they'll finish it
Damn
tonight.
thing.
And they have to because that's their thing.
Yeah.
They're part of a squad now.
And they're my favorite people.
There's someone in Newfoundland
I admire
right
that
now who's like
commitment.
behind or ahead, I guess, in time, and they're going to listen to the whole thing. They're going to go to bed at 4
When Jesse and I were at Kiss,
on a Tuesday.
and
You should invite some of your most hardcore fans to listen in real time, like in the room.
Yeah, but I don't want to be corrected on all the things I'm wrong on that quickly.
Yeah,
I
it's
wanna
better
like-
later. It's better later.
I just
You
was
know?
thinking because like they're so insistent on like up to the minute. They could be truly up to the minute,
Yeah, up to the now. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then somehow put them in the future. Okay,
No, I like it.
be cool.
We're working. Be
Cool.
Figuring it
People
out.
have asked us for live streams too, and I'm like, man, no thanks. Just because,
live streams.
yeah, like we're because
That's
first
got
off, the
potential.
comments. Well, it could be fun, especially if we were doing like a live press conference. Like if we had you in, people could like write in their questions. But A, the comment section usually gets out of control. B, I don't want to read things about what I'm saying as I'm saying it. I just, you know what I mean? It's
You'd
just
rather
something-
go 10 minutes down a conversation where you're totally wrong.
Totally. Yeah. I would rather
Then-
be wrong and
Then get steered out of
wrong.
the ditch by one of the great SDP listeners.
Actually, all the usernames are just actually in a number that follows it. Actually 1, actually 2, actually 69, actually 420.
Oh yeah, we basically when Jesse and I were at Kiss, the average listening time was less than 10 minutes, and that was at our very, very, very best, right? And that was big.
And you're like a
Because
top-rated
there's people
show.
in their car, you turn on your
Yeah.
car, you drive 5 minutes, you turn us off. And that's
Right.
it.
That's
Yeah.
what happens, right? You go on a commercial break, whatever.
Yeah.
You play a crappy song, and I'm like,
Exactly.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
literally.
Yeah.
that's like my day. Driving.
Totally. Here, it's 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's average. That's one listen, and that doesn't mean they don't come back. It means that every time people listen, they listen on average for 45 minutes.
45 minutes. It's
So
insane.
if you listen for 45 minutes and then come back, the chances are you're listening for 45 more minutes. Like it's just
Wow.
It's wild. We have literally the best listeners in the world,
Yeah.
and the perspective coming from the radio side is like, wow, it's crazy. Because everybody that actually, it's funny. This is completely off track, but everybody that I talk
We're
to,
going somewhere.
everybody that I
Let's go.
talk to is like,
I
you
feel
guys.
like I'm responsible for all the off tracks. I'm like, hey, what about this thing?
You're super not. No,
It's
yes.
the Steve Dangle podcast.
What? Blue car? What?
Well, do you guys have a lineup anywhere, or do you just wing?
yeah, I got it
Okay.
right here.
Oh, he's got enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
Adam's the professional.
I was going to ask you.
Jesse's a professional. I'm me.
I was going to ask you about
Oh,
like
for
the
a wild
the-
prediction.
The Kessler, yeah, I did ask you for that, but like,
Which we got to get to.
yeah, I do want to. Do you have a wild predict? Do you have a gut feeling about
Yeah.
something you think
wanna hear
is going to
this.
happen? And you, by the way, we won't
I want
hold
to give
you
you a
this.
good answer, though. I don't want to just
We
make
can hold
something
off.
up to.
You can think about it.
You have to give. I will give you one before the end of the show, but I
Done.
have to. I want to give you something I really think could happen.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask. We got half an hour left here in our studio. So here's
So
the,
for you people listening at 3:30 a.m., get another coffee going.
Yeah.
did we put up a questions thing for Chris?
Not specifically for Chris, but there's some from
There
the
are some. Okay,
press
now
conference.
how long do you think those questions will take? Because I've got some things here we can talk about. I don't know what we can say about Randy Lee resigning in Ottawa, other than the fact that it's one less distraction and a team full of distractions. What I did want to
When did
get
that happen?
It just happened about 10 minutes before the show.
Oh, okay. Well done. I didn't know that.
Because it was funny because at the beginning of the summer, I got Eugene's lawyer. Eugene called and he's going to defend, and Eugene was like, "Yeah," and now he's being made to resign 6 weeks later, very quietly. I thought that was interesting, but this was more interesting.
At 6 p.m. on a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
Classic news dump.
seriously, yeah. Johnny Oduya on his time with the Sens. All the stuff between Hoffman and Karlsson happened when I'd already left for Philadelphia, no doubt. I don't know how to describe it, but an organization like that doesn't have the same sort of traditions and stability. If minor stuff happens, the house of cards falls apart pretty fast. It was a big difference compared to other clubs I've played for, where the tradition runs deeper and there's more structure. And that is from a media outlet in Sweden.
Saw that quote.
Saw that quote. What'd you think of that?
A lot of good stuff breaks out of Sweden.
Well, Swedes are really honest.
Yeah. So are the Russians. Crazy.
Russia's just got a weird. Let's not go there. Let's not
Yeah.
lump
Yeah.
because like Sweden actually has a very specific media culture where even though Swedes are so polite in person, they're pretty edgy with how they cover stories. And for some reason, and I don't know how they do it, I'd love to take their magic, the players all just talk to them for like an insane amount of time by the North American standards. And hence you get interviews like this where just more part of the culture there to be honest about stuff. You know, I'm not surprised to hear that. Ottawa doesn't have anyone working for them. That's the biggest issue the Senators have. You know,
you don't just mean management.
Yeah. Can we get the front office pull up here? Like it's honestly,
Thin?
it's almost laughable. And I'm actually not making fun of them. Like it's
How
crazy.
could you at this point, right?
No, but
Like you can't be like
this
even
is
as a
part
fan,
of what
you
he's
can't
talking
talk
about
about
though. Like I think everybody there has to do twice the normal job, you know, of what their role is with other teams. And
For probably less than the going rate.
yes, and we all know that the owner is an issue that hovers above everything.
So the page hasn't been updated because Randy Lee is still on it.
That doesn't surprise me. The web person is probably also doing ticket sales and probably
Oh my
also
God.
stocking the vending machine.
What's interesting, like they have a lot of good people there.
Of course absolutely. But they got rid of their big business guy, Tom Anselmi, earlier this year, which
Yeah.
was surprising to me because that's a guy that helped build for what you know. You can say what you want about how the Leafs were while he was here. He's a business guy.
They made money.
They made piles and piles of money, and that's why Eugene brought Tom Anselmi in. And the fact that they let him go, that was a big red flag, which kind of went, for me at least, unnoticed. But it was like that's a big money guy. He's a big business guy.
Wasn't there some sort of strange thing where like they laid off a bunch of, I want to say like arena workers or concessions people or something like that? Just nothing's going well there, man.
No,
Nothing's
and
going
they're so
on.
they're in a cash crunch, and
Are they gonna?
It's
Is he gonna sell his
imploding.
damn team? Like is Eugene gonna just say, "Listen, get out, get out"?
nobody's saying he is, but just common sense suggests to me at some point it could get to that. I mean, I think one of the interesting storylines for them is how many people are coming to their games. I mean, I could see a true fan revolt there. And it's not because people in Ottawa don't care about the Senators or hockey. It's they're tired of the owner. This team is in a jackpot right now. Like their three best players are on 1-year deals with UFA coming next summer. They don't own their first round pick, and they're coming off a season where they finished what, 30th? 31st?
One
29th?
of the last place teams, yeah.
I mean, I don't think they're going to be probably as bad. They'll probably have a few more things go their way this year. I think some of it was bad luck last year, but they got everything that isn't bolted down. They have to do a rebuild, I think. And, so I'm sure what he said is true. I mean, there was dressing room issues. It's at some point we talked about it on headlines this year. Pierre Dorian went in the room and like turned off the music and blasted the players.
Billy Bean style.
Which I think happens more in the movies than in reality. Like the fact that it happened was notable. And,
That's what losing sounds like.
the threat of being gone has hung over this team. So they come out of Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final. Kyle Turris doesn't get his contract extension last summer. Everyone knows by the time, like this time last year, that he's going to likely be traded. He gets traded. His wife comes out and says the owner wouldn't approve his contract extension.
Which is probably true.
I don't know why she'd lie about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Really, like I don't know what would incentivize her to throw a bomb at the. I think they were doing it on behalf of other players. They've promptly stripped a bunch of other players away, even guys like Dion Phaneuf, and so they make a bunch of trades last year. Now you have Stone, Hoffman. Hoffman's gone now, of course. Stone, Carlson, and Duchesne all on the last year of their deals.
And Marion Gaborik with 4 more years.
Yeah, I was going to say a couple more years for Marion. I mean, I think that they have a chance to turn it around. They just have to rebuild. They just have to do it the old-fashioned way.
They like strip it right on back.
And I think they're going to try to do that, but it's challenging times there. So it must have been awful to be someone like Johnny Oduya joining a team that had a good season and just be there as like everything, implodes. It was a house of cards. It was a lucky run too. Like, and I don't mean that luck's part of the sport. It's a bouncing piece of rubber on ice, but a lot of things went right for them to get all the way to the conference final too. And they don't have to apologize for that, but they probably weren't as good as that suggested if you were just going by the results.
Right.
Or they weren't. Why am I putting probably in there as a qualifier?
Definitely we're not.
They weren't a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference. And so last year was a disaster. So anyway, they're going to, they're doing interviews right away. They're going to get a new assistant GM. I think that they will probably look to some younger people for that job, which is interesting. It's about injecting. A team like that has to find a way. because it doesn't have the budget of other teams, because it doesn't have the front office size, they have to find creative ways.
Young is cheap.
And so I wouldn't be surprised, and they haven't decided on their guy as far as I know, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them hire someone a little younger who might come at this problem with a different angle than what they've done. And I could see them turning it around, honestly. They also have some nice young players. It's just they need a lot of them. They need to do what the Leafs did,
And they
honestly.
need some stars, like some star young players. They've got good young pieces, but do they have a Mitch Marner? And I bring it back to the Leafs because we are a Leafs podcast first and foremost. Do they have a Mitch Marner in their system? Do they have William Nylander in their system?
Elias Pettersson, like in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Like Vancouver's kind of bleak, but damn, they got some players.
Yeah, get some, or even a Brock Besser. Like, do they have
That's why
that?
it hurts so much that they don't have their first round pick next year.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you that, because do you think that was, obviously picking fourth is fantastic, but if you know you're going to be worse next year, you have to think they're going to be, I think they're going to be worse.
I've always argued you bet on yourself. And if you finish fourth last, you bet that you're not going to finish worse than fourth last.
But you're betting that knowing that Karlsson, Duchesne, and Stone probably all have to go.
But then you're just throwing in the towel at that point. You're being like, okay, we're going to finish worse than fourth last. And you never want to do that to your fan base. Be like, hey, we're going to finish worse.
The problem is, though, is it hurts your leverage now when you're trying to potentially trade guys like Karlsson or, maybe, I'm not sure they're going to trade Stone or Duchesne, but, you might get close to the deadline, you're moving those guys, and everyone knows, I don't know. I just feel like you weaken yourself, too. It was a no-win situation, frankly.
Speaking of not the best position to trade from, what the heck happened with the Hoffman trade, with the Sharks basically completely stabbing the Sens in the back?
Is it exactly what we think it is, which is
Ottawa didn't know.
Ottawa had no idea, huh?
They didn't know he was about to be flipped.
Was Eugene ticked when he went, like, because it was obviously
Pierre.
It was obviously Pierre Dorian that said, we're not trading him within the conference, which is a stupid idea.
This has happened before, though. Martin Jones.
Right.
He got traded to Boston from LA because LA didn't want to deal with him in the division, and Boston promptly sent him to San Jose. And in that case, San Jose was on the other end of it. But
each time San Jose benefits, Doug Wilson's a maniac.
Well, Doug Wilson's known for being a guy who works the phones maybe as much or more than any GM in the league. He's kind of in on everything. Like he likes to know what's going on, and he looks for opportunities.
So Pierre Dorian never picks up his phone again from Doug Wilson, right? Like never. If it says Doug Wilson, I'm hanging up.
I don't know specifically that there's bad blood there, but I'm sure he wasn't happy in the moment. I do think kind of as a GM, though, you got to move on a little bit.
Well, how do you get, like, how does he
San
only
Jose
get...
could be a landing spot for Karlsson, potentially. Like, it's...
Yeah.
They have room.
Take Michael Bodker's contract back, please. And then we'll give you Eric.
Not only are you giving me more than you think, you're giving me specifically every one of those picks you got from Florida, you bastards. If you get Karlsson.
Oh,
right.
yeah,
And I'm not saying it's likely, but I mean, you still have to... Sometimes situations bring you back together again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if
it's
if
a
you're
funny
the
crew.
Sens, yeah.
When you see the GM together, like you kind of wonder because first of all, again, competitive guys. There's probably some bad blood over things that have happened.
They must hate each other, like a few of them.
Yeah, and some are like best friends.
Yeah,
because you see it. If I go to the GM's meeting, there'll be like three random GMs that you wouldn't necessarily know are tight, like drinking a beer together, looking like us guys. You know what I mean? Like like oddly, because hockey world is really small. A lot of these guys have worked together and knew each other since they were kids. I think Jarmo Kekalainen and Ray Shero were the best man at each other's weddings.
Wow.
I believe they went to St. Lawrence University together as players, like way back in the day.
How's that fair when you're trying to make a deal?
Well, they also are Pittsburgh and Columbus, or they were at one point Pittsburgh and Columbus. So like they were like direct rivals. Now New Jersey. I don't know if they've made many trades. I can't think of.
Yeah, I don't think they have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it doesn't mean you always trade with your buddy.
No.
Because you're probably trying to
might
pull
share
one
some
over
info.
on the other guy.
Yeah.
It's harder to.
How much of a punch in the gut was the Tavares situation for the Islanders, and specifically Lou Lamoriello? Like, did Lou really believe he could hang on to him?
For sure. I mean, everyone close to this thought that's where it was going. I mean, we were at the draft, which is a week before July 1st, and just the general attitude in the air. Like, I felt like I was the only one thinking, like, guys, this isn't a done deal. I mean, he's going to LA the next day to start meeting with teams. Like, as soon as you open your brain to that, I don't know. But anyway, it was an industry prevailing thought. I mean, Lou had some advantages here. I think he's got a great relationship with Pat Brisson, who's the agent for John Tavares. And they had a dinner together in New York City in mid-May before he was even hired by the Islanders, with Pat John and Lou.
Well, Lou was still wearing a Leafs badge, which is not tampering somehow.
Yeah, but it's Lou, so who cares? Yeah.
Well, it becomes less tampering when he didn't sign with Lou, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I guess it's still technically maybe tampering, but
Yeah.
didn't change history. Maybe push him away. Who knows? But no, I definitely the Islanders thought they were going to get him. I mean, even Lou went to California and hung around. They got the first meeting, but hung around for 3 more days.
Tried to get a second
meeting, but also kind of wanted last word and wanted to be there just in case. Which I don't think it's the wrong thing to do, but hockey players don't leave. Like the hockey players with this kind of stature. So yeah, that's a gut punch. I mean, the reaction we saw from some of the media guys there was
unbelievable. It's like they'd never seen. Well, it's because New York. No one ever leaves New York,
right? Well,
and
who leaves
New York?
To be fair, I'm not taking a shot here, veiled at Arthur Staple or anyone who's covering that team every day. I really respect Arthur's
Is he a
work.
liar too?
No, but it's just more some of the shock jocks and
you know
what I mean? Like some of them are. I don't know.
Are you calling out Boomer?
Is that Boomer? I don't know.
Boomer Esiason and
did Boomer go at him?
I don't know if Boomer went at him. No,
there was a shock jock there though who just was like, "This is treasonous" and whatever.
Yeah. Oh God! Well, that's what they're supposed to do, right?
Right. But some of the reaction I was going to say was over the top, but that's a gut punch. I mean,
now when they went out,
seeing him in the Leafs PJs, well, exciting to Leaf fans. I think like the Islanders are like, we would have liked to have known that was a factor.
Yeah. Well, I wonder too, with
how don't they know? Like I've gotten over Kadri's Canadians PJs. I've gotten over it.
Well, I'm sure Stamkos had Leafs PJs, and it didn't mean a thing to him.
Half the league
from Ontario. Come on.
I wonder what they were thinking though, going out and signing Leo Komarov to that term and that money.
And Filppula.
Filppula, I understand. It's 1 day. Or it's 1 year. Like Filppula is fine. It's $2.5 million for 1 year. Fine.
Well, and they kind of had to.
Yeah, you need a center.
Yeah.
But like Komarov for that long?
Well, the 4-year term. So I had heard the week before when they had that interview period that he was asking for 4 years, and I was thinking like, yeah, it's because we all ask for more than we're going to get. He got it. He literally got his price. I'm stunned by that. But I know what they're thinking. Like, look, you're going to need a transition period dressing room wise. You lose your captain. And I think Leo Komarov, culturally for the Leafs, was great in their terrible seasons. Like, I think he set a good tone. And so I can understand on some level, you want Leo Komarov, the guy, around, but having the play around for 4 years, I mean, that's got bio written all over it at some point.
Yeah. And what about, and Matt Martin, is he going to be another guy that's a dressing room guy?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
look,
he'll play.
He's only got 2 years on his deal, and the actual money's really low on it. So I could see, he's coming back somewhere, the fans like him. I mean, part of this is entertainment. They got to put people in the seats. They got to try to be somewhat competitive. But when you're buying in free agency, generally you're in trouble. And that's where the Islanders were this year. They were spending a lot of money on just random guys trying to fill holes. You want to be buying the way the Leafs bought. You want to be buying the really shiny car off the lot.
And then walk away from the rest of it.
Yeah, because they didn't overcommit anywhere else, right?
And the Canucks with Beagle and Juan Rousseau.
Feels the same way. I mean, they have to have a team out there. They're trying to not rush some of the kids along. Like, they want to have some of those guys in Utica.
But those scream buyout to me, too.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, every contract you just brought up, Komarov, Roussel, Beagle,
4 times 3.
years, 3.
Yeah. And it's funny, when
Patrick Maroon actually mentioned this. Because he couldn't believe he couldn't get a better contract than the one he signed. And if you look at his numbers, like, he had way better numbers. I don't know what they were off the top of my head, but he was like, I'm seeing guys get 4 times 3, and he's getting 1 year deals for like $2 million.
Yeah.
And he's coming off.
Is that what he signed for?
Yeah, in St. Louis.
2.5 maybe?
No way.
Yes.
But he'll have a great year.
Man.
And it's his hometown team, but he even admitted, like, he's happy to play for his hometown team, but he can't believe he couldn't, because he saw the money on July 1st, and then it just goes away.
Patrick Maroon is right.
He is right.
He's absolutely right.
And I like that he admitted it, because most guys don't say that.
Yeah. No, they wouldn't. I'm happy to be with the team, blah, blah, blah. They toe the line.
He was on Spit and Chicklets, the podcast, and he was pretty honest about.
Did you hear what Milan Lucic said on that show about DeMar DeRozan?
Yes.
What did you think of that? Is that just Milan? Is that he's just that guy?
Well, yeah. I think that a lot of people are saying that to their buddies all over North America right now. Yeah. I think it's what you say over a beer to your buddy when you're talking about it, and people aren't accustomed, especially to a hockey player coming out and making that kind of statement.
It was, in a way, it was refreshing. Like,
Was
because
it
at least he was
also on a Barstool podcast?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
that's
context.
Yeah,
That's the audience they're going for, and if you say something like that, it's going to take off.
That
and everybody's
particular
gonna be like,
podcast, of which I do listen, really revels in its not liking basketball. So any they make a thing out of it.
Yeah.
So they don't miss a turn to try to like.
which is sort of hilarious because
bit.
like it's the biggest sport.
It's a bit, and so they, if I remember correctly, because I don't remember exactly what Milan said. I know the basic tone of what he was saying, but they were like rallying him up, like basketball, like bunch of wimps in basketball kind of thing, because they're being literally stereotypical hockey guys.
Yeah.
So
I believe he said, "Stop being a bitch." I believe that
I
was the
think
exact
those were
quote.
his exact words.
and he basically said, what you're talking about, Ryan Whitney's one of the co-hosts of that podcast, was like, players are meat.
Yeah.
And
That was Bissonnette too, yeah.
you know what? Jim Devellano said essentially the same thing in the lockout and got fined for it by the NHL, that they're cattle, I think he called them. But it's not untrue. It's just,
Unpleasant.
yeah, well, I mean, we don't want to, especially those of us as close to it as we are, but even fans, I mean, I don't think anyone really wants to think of the truth, but like Artemi Panarin, he was a free agent. Everyone in the league wanted to sign him. He signs in Chicago. He loves it there. He more than lives up to his end of the billing, and he gets traded to Columbus against his will. Like, no offense again to Columbus. I don't think that he should sign with them if he doesn't want to be there. I mean,
Well, I don't think Columbus would think that either. I think they'd probably be like, well, if you
I
don't want to be
understand
here.
why they're disappointed, but
Yeah.
everything that he had to like scratch and claw just to make a career. So now that he's about to hit a home run, like he should go where he wants to live and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And but like I feel like loyalty isn't always two ways in sports, right? We expect it from players, but not always from teams.
Jesse looked it up, and I guess in the salary cap era, there are 10 exact matches for 4-year contracts, $3 million per.
Nice.
How many did the Leafs sign?
Well, so a couple. There were the 3 this past summer. That's Komarov, Roussel, and Beagle. There was a 2014 one that was Andrew Cogliano. That was actually quite a nice deal. Joel Ward, Thomas Kopetsky, Victor Stahlberg from Nashville, Chris Kelly with Boston, and the 2 Leaf ones were Nicholas Hagman, which didn't work out all that great. He had the one really good season, and Darcy Tucker, and he was bought out.
I believe Stahlberg was bought out by Nashville on that deal too.
I think you're right. So there's a couple buyouts there already.
I mean, look at
Out
if
of
we're-
the 7,
if you look
that
at the
were
league,
signed
basically
prior.
the middle class is where you get in trouble. When you're
Yeah.
paying guys $4 and $5 million ish.
We always say that.
Yeah, we say that all the time on the show.
Pay your stars. Everybody else kind of.
Fill it in.
Yeah.
And that'll be the issue for the Leafs, really. Like, and it's not an issue today, but if Andreas Janssen has a kind of season he could have, and then he's worth $3 or $4 million, like you give it to him, but it might be hard to keep that there. Yeah. I mean, one of the smart things I think Connor Brown did is take less money. That could work against him too, because another team might go, "Hey, he's only making $2 million. That's
super valuable." Yeah, but that's what Justin Bourne was actually saying on Twitter the other day. Was maybe everyone stop trying to trade Connor Brown because you need players like that to win Stanley Cups. You need guys not making a whole lot of money.
sure."
2's not quite league minimum, but it's for what he does. I think it's pretty cheap.
And he admitted to me second day camp last year, because he signed that last August,
Brown.
that he did take a bit less. Like he basically ended, because he was in a similar kind of standoff that Nylander is, different platform years. They weren't talking the same money, and obviously in his case not that long a deal. But he was just like, I knew I could fight for a bit more, but I like it here. It's enough money that it's great
4
for my
years.
family.
Yeah, it's $8 million is still $8 million.
But he said he wants everyone to have a little piece of it. That's what Ryan Ellis said in Nashville too. Like I saw a bunch of Twitter, people saying this is a bargain, and on some level, yes, he could have definitely got more in the open market, but he loves it there. He thinks they're going to have a chance to win a Stanley Cup, and no state tax also in Tennessee.
Yeah, that helps.
Ding. But and if you're him, you're like, if I do this and the next guy does this, and there's been a past, there's a history of that in Nashville. Lots of guys not going for the top dollar. That's what the Leafs are hoping for. Brendan Shanahan said as much. He actually told Bob McCowan that in one of his more candid moments, that's one of the successes they had in Detroit, is that he never made top dollar of what he could have made at those years, but they all.
But in Toronto, you can still go out and make it on the secondary market. You can still go do endorsements. You can do one Campbell soup ad. You can do, you can do Don Tavares doing Vita Coca.
Yeah, John Tavares, the Islander player, had a coconut water deal in Toronto.
I don't even know what Vita Coca is.
It's coconut water.
It's coconut water.
Wow.
And it's him with a hockey stick and a beach ball.
And a generic jersey.
No, not
no,
jersey.
in like a golf shirt in Raba.
Yeah.
For some reason, at a grocery store where you can get
I'm not sure that
samosas.
would pay him that much, though. I mean,
Well, yeah, but I mean,
you have
even
to do a lot of Vita Coco ads to make up for the kind of money we're talking about.
Austin Matthews has to be doing quite well with that Scotiabank sponsorship, I would think.
He is.
So
it's 6 figures a year for sure.
well, there you go, right?
Well,
Like
damn.
a couple
Mitch
of
Marner
those.
with that insurance company.
And if you get these guys, they sign a big deal with Reebok or whatever, Adidas or whatever it is now. I mean, I think you can make some of that money back.
Especially the stars, for sure.
Like Tavares, if he wants to make more than 11, can easily.
Yeah, like you start doing stuff with Canadian Tire or some of the really big legacy companies that can pay big money, which is their Canadian Tire was involved with Stamkos trying to make this exact pitch that didn't go so well a few years ago. But that's the other guys, I think they have to go out and like really hustle. They got to go to card signings and and make like $5,000 a signing, which again, it's in their world, it's not that much money.
Yeah.
I would do that. If anyone wants me to do that, I'm available.
Do you want to try to do that? We should try to do that.
Yeah, we should. Yes. Hi. I can't really skate, but if I could,
It would be this, and here's me
basically reenacting Connor Brown's commercial.
But the other thing too, let's face it, you go to a game at Scotiabank Arena and look at all the random Leafs from the darkest memories of your mind that like will appear to do things there, because if you play for the Leafs, and I think especially if you play for a good Leafs team, people remember you forever, and there's opportunities. I mean, Darcy Tucker looks like he's still working to me.
He is.
He's got tons of stuff going on,
and so full of fire and energy.
I love.
too.
No, me too.
When we worked we went with him to Boston with MasterCard.
For that extraordinarily unfortunate game
And
too.
he was fired up after that. And we've been trying to get him on the show for a while. And I got to tell you, man, that guy, he still wants it. Like he still wants to jump back on the ice and crush people.
He was
like
thinking about this Bruins fan that was chirping him, like he was reenacting the story, and he's like playing with a pencil in his hand, and like you could just tell he was pretending the pencil was the guy's neck.
he's laughing but not laughing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's cackling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, remember he played in Tampa before he got traded to Toronto. If he was the exact same player he was with the Leafs in Tampa, the opportunities to work there just wouldn't be the same, right?
Right.
I'm just, part of, and I think Darcy recognized that he still lives in the city, and he's said that those were the best years of his career. But being a Leaf has like value beyond just the moment, and that would be the sales pitch to me if you're the Leafs. I mean, what they're saying privately is this is a team that could win a Stanley Cup. Like people are going to remember this team forever if that happens. Do you want to be a part of it? You might have to leave a little bit of money on the table, but here's the cap number, and they got their big wall at the MasterCard Center. Everyone's salary doesn't add up. Go to Cap Friendly.
Yep.
And so I think they're going to try to do that. I don't know if they'll be successful. I really don't. I mean, it starts with Nylander. And I'm not saying it's all on his shoulders, but that's probably the first one we're going to see.
I think it'd be really interesting if Austin left some money on the table if he does the 8x11, because then I think if he's doing it, that sets an example.
He's in a great
John
spot because he could take 8x11. You could still kind of spin it that he took less.
Yeah.
But he's not really taking less.
No.
That out of entry level, that would be the second largest contract ever signed out of entry level.
Besides Connor McDavid.
So, I mean, that's probably about right.
What are the odds we see Matthews sign
Sorry
before
if
Willie?
your agent's listening, Austin.
So what are the odds we see Austin sign before Willie?
I hope my agent's listening. Get his agent. Jesus. Anyway, sorry.
Well, part of me, this is more just, I've had a lot of summer to cook up like theories.
At your fire in Saskatchewan, just
Well, no,
staring into it and thinking.
I did go out to BC though and had a fire in Fernie with my oldest friend who built a house on the side of a mountain. It was awesome.
Of course you did.
So maybe
As one does.
maybe it took hold somewhere in the mountains of Fernie, but because 8x11 is so obvious that even we can see it, I sort of wonder if there's a wink done there a little bit, or I don't know, maybe just not as,
like it would be less, and
maybe not as urgent to cement that, even though both sides kind of know where the deal is, so that they can get Nylander done first. Just because you don't want to throw that
avoid
out.
the Draisaitl thing.
I mean, and look, if you're Nylander and his agent, that's probably around where Austin's going to end up, but it's not cemented then, and so you don't have the Draisaitl effect. Part of me wonders if that might be going, because there really is no compelling reason to do the Matthews deal today. I mean, Jack Eichel signed his, I think, October 3rd before last season, but it's not going to stress Austin out. I mean, I'll tell you this much. Austin is probably not one bit scared if he doesn't have a contract this year, because the odds of him potentially, say, winning a Rocket Richard trophy or becoming the assist king, whichever. But like, you know, maybe winning a major award or something that can get him into a different stratosphere. You know, I'm sure he would take that bet on himself. So I do sort of wonder if I think Nylander will get done first. I'd be surprised because they don't have to do one with Austin, and my senses are not really anywhere with Marner. I think that's a next summer project.
Right. That'll be the thing we can talk about all next summer.
Everyone's going to fixate. I mean, he's going to play Tavares, right?
Yeah.
And he's
90 points.
He's going to be like player of the week in week 1. He's going to have like 12 assists in 3 games. And everyone's just going to be freaking out.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to the press conference before we actually run out of time here, because we are running out of time.
JXXAM wants to know, can you rank the other Canadian franchises by how strongly their fans think the Toronto media is biased against their team?
That's an awesome question.
That's a good one. I like that.
Listen, which cities do you hate?
No, I don't.
No.
No. Let's stick to the original.
I don't know if you.
So
can
my
hate.
impression of fans that think that the media is biased against their team. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put Winnipeg 7.
So least. Okay.
Because I just sense a lot of love in Winnipeg. And I think even the national media kind of likes the Jets, like as a second favorite kind of team. I'm not speaking even just for myself, but you know, when they went on their playoff run, I didn't sense any cynicism about what they were doing.
Yeah.
I don't think they're tired of Toronto.
They're also an unbelievable team. Like they're so
I'm supposed to not like Laine, but I'm like, damn it, they're fun.
For chaos, I'm hoping we see a Jets Leafs Cup one day.
Hell yeah.
Just for pure chaos. Like NBC's ratings will be non-existent. Sportsnets will just destroy the universe, and it will be a memorable series no matter what happens.
That'd be like 10 million people.
In Canada.
More.
Yeah. Like
two people in the United States.
Yeah.
Next, I would put Calgary at 6.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just a lot of ambivalence from the Flames fan base.
I feel that.
Okay.
I might even put them 7. They don't kick up as much fuss as their neighbors.
Right. Edmonton ain't 5th.
That would get tough.
It does, because, I mean, first I'm choosing between Edmonton, Vancouver, and Montreal, basically.
And Ottawa.
I think Ottawa's like in maybe the next tier,
A little higher.
So Leafs Ottawa in the next tier. Where would you rank them? We'll go to them first.
I don't
know. They're so beaten down in Ottawa, but they're tired. You're right.
They also do think that everybody's out to get them too.
Yeah.
I don't think Montreal really thinks people pick on them, do they?
No, I was going to put Montreal next.
Really?
Yeah, they pick on each other.
Yeah, Montreal's
their own media. Yeah.
I mean, they're getting a bit tired of the Leafs, I think. Like all of the league is going to shortly. But
God forbid 2 years of the Leafs. We've heard Montreal for the last 25. Yeah. I think they'll be okay.
So then I sort of feel like the natural next one for me, it's so hard to choose between those.
I'd probably say that's tough.
I've got Edmonton in the 1 slot.
Oh, yeah?
Unquestionably. Like
Ottawa,
more so than Vancouver?
Vancouver's got to be number 2.
Vancouver might be 3 with Ottawa, too.
Tempted to put Vancouver 3, yeah.
Because, like, I don't sense a lot, like, they hate everything about Toronto in general in Vancouver.
They complain.
They complain about the 4 o'clock local starts when the Leafs are there.
Which I just don't understand.
Do you know what I noticed? An interesting thing that's happened in this year's schedule. The Leafs-Vancouver game is not the Saturday game in Western Canada for the first time in my years covering the team.
Wow.
It's the Leafs-Edmonton game that is the Saturday night game when they do the Western Canada swing.
And how could it not be, right?
So
McDavid Matthews.
Vancouver will get its wish, and they will play a 7 o'clock local game, or 7:30, whatever it is. Yeah. And it'll be Edmonton that has the 5 o'clock with their time.
Leafs McDavid.
Yeah.
I know. Well, finally.
Okay.
Yeah, about time.
Well, Vancouver's just so bad. You can't put them in that slot.
Yeah.
I think they always just did because they got good support. I think they get really good TV numbers.
Yep.
And they were a good team. They were a really good team.
For a long time.
Like, it makes sense, but they're just...
The last 3 years, they finished in the bottom 2.
Yeah, they stink.
They finished bottom two times.
They're freaking terrible.
But it's interesting because the schedule is all different this year. Like the Leafs kind of done, like clusters of games have been the same from year to year to year, like certainly the road trips. And this year it's all out of order and different and interesting.
So let's start, let's see where we're at here. At number 7, it was
Winnipeg.
Calgary.
Montreal.
Toronto?
Oh, wait.
Are we
I
guess we don't include
If we're
Toronto.
doing 7, then we got to start at 6.
Oh, yeah,
right? If
so
we're not including Toronto.
we're doing
Math.
6.
Yeah.
No one said to be math.
Quebec?
So we're not including Toronto?
No.
Okay.
So it would be
six.
So
Yeah,
six
six
would be
teams.
Winnipeg, 5 Calgary, 4 Montreal, 3 Vancouver, 2 Ottawa, 1 Edmonton.
So you felt the Edmonton effect as well.
Oh, dude,
It's
Edmonton by
from the
leaps and
media
bounds.
too.
Like, no
it's not
offense
the
to the other
fans.
fans listening, but damn.
But honestly, no one comes out of this with their hands clean. Like Twitter is just a shit show these
sure.
days.
Yeah.
Honestly,
You don't say.
Did you watch
like
the
I'm not
war
saying
debates?
like Edmonton is really that much worse than anywhere else. It's just it, in my highly biased opinion, is probably the worst at the moment. But like, I mean, everything is crazy. This war stuff is just.
It's crazy, the war stuff. Like,
You know what? I haven't seen a single tweet about it.
Did you mute war from your?
Yeah,
You should mute the
he
word
deleted,
war.
He
out of
deleted
your-
Twitter from his phone.
Yeah, I deleted it from my phone. It's been off for 2 or 3 weeks now. Only desktop.
What?
Only desktop. I needed a break, and you know what? It's been great, man.
Yeah, but September 13th, you're like back.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
I'm
back
getting
on.
it back.
Yeah.
I know. Everyone's like, oh, you'll be back. Yes, I know. It's part of my job. But it's August, and I had some shit to do, and it made me feel better.
The blue room's done.
Blue room's all done, man. You can come over.
What's it look like?
Awesome.
It actually is cool.
Did you rebuild it the same way, or did you make it
No.
a better blue room?
So the wall underneath the shelf is now, that's going to be the background for general NHL videos. So if I were to do a video on like the Reichel Shinkaruk trade, for example, that would be the background.
Can you please
Or
do a
whether
video on
or
that?
not hockey still has a place in the game.
Or whether or not, I misspoke in my
Hockey
video
still
that I
has a
just
place.
did. I said I was talking about. I wanted to say whether or not fighting still has a place in hockey, and I said whether or not hockey still has a place in hockey.
And it made this cut?
I missed it. I missed it.
Wow.
It's a problem with editing your own shit.
This is like chilled out August Steve. He doesn't even know what he's saying.
That's amazing.
I would blame it on August if I didn't make those sorts of mistakes all the time. I got an international wall with like a Canada jersey, so if like the World Juniors come on, Olympics come on, whatever, that'll be the background. And then my Leaf wall is the biggest wall, and it's sick. I can show you a picture.
Did you buy new things for it?
I got a few new things. I got something I accidentally won at an auction. You ever done that? Where you're like, oh, place a bid. Oh shit, I won. Yeah.
Now I have to pay that.
I live in a
Right?
condo, so I haven't done that. Like
No.
I'm under strict orders. Like nothing comes home. It's got to be. Like I got the sign off Team Canada's door from the Sochi Olympics, and I was.
Come on.
What?
And I
you
was-
come in here and you just drop that now?
Come on.
And so I was allowed to bring that in, but like it's got to be at about that level for
Oh
me to
my
bring it home.
god!
It's got to be just a one of a kind thing. Jesus
that's
Christ.
gonna be
that
worth
should
like
be
20
in a
grand.
Hall
man.
of Fame somewhere.
Yeah, that should
I will give
literally
it to
be
them.
in
I'm
the
not
Hockey
looking
Hall
to
of
make
Fame.
money off it.
You should be. Why wouldn't you make money off that?
You're not even wrong. That should absolutely be in the Hockey
No,
Hall
it's
of
just a
Fame.
sign from their dressing room door.
Yeah, that should probably be
But
in
think
the
of
Hall
all the
of Fame.
stuff in the Hall of Fame. They brought sticks and gloves and medals and pucks. I've got the Team
I
Canada
want to see a
side.
picture. I
That's
want
one
to
of
see a
the
picture.
coolest pieces of memorabilia
That's so cool.
anyone I know has.
I'm like,
that's really cool.
I'm
man.
like, wow. I'm like blown away right now.
Yeah.
By the way, you should be totally
I was-
using that as an investment piece. I'm
you should
just
be
saying.
under arrest.
This is, do you know, I could finally talk about this, but it's been hard.
oh boy.
What is this?
So
Here we go.
Again, because under the context of living in a small space in downtown Toronto and having a wife who doesn't like any clutter, I can only bring certain things home, right? So what I bring home has to matter. And so I was in the party with the Team Canada guys after they won in Sochi. Like it wasn't a crazy party. It was just in like this little area in the rink. And I brought home a beer glass. And it was my most cherished beer glass from Sochi with the Russian beer on it. And it broke. And I like didn't put it in the dishwasher naturally.
Yeah, of course.
Kept it in its own special spot to not have it break. And it would only have it like if I was watching a big game or something. Like I remember I brought it out for like one of the World Junior finals, but like it wasn't in regular rotation.
Can I ask how?
Knocked off the table.
Damn.
Smashed right on the hardwood. I mean, it's just the glass. But that was like a glass I wanted to have forever, just because it was so
Yeah,
cool. Honestly,
yeah.
I would say if any of the privilege I've got out of my job, and obviously a lot of it's just travel and stuff. Like I go to the games, but usually don't. But like I bumped into someone with Team Canada when I was in the hallway, and he brought me in, and like I had a beer with some of the players I knew, and it was just like it's probably my greatest memory. First of all, as a traveler anywhere in the world, like just being with those guys. Right, they were in Russia. They just won the gold medal. Like it was just really cool to be a fly on the wall. And I brought that glass home, and it's gone. So it's somehow overshadowed that I also ripped the sign off their door because they left, and the sign was just there. Like if it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be someone else.
I'm glad it was you. I
So
want to see
did
the
you
sign.
put that in your luggage to take it home? Like, how did you get it
I
on
put
the
it
plane?
in the carry-on, And I was like showing it to like everyone on the plane because like they just won. And first, the other thing too is like when you come home from the Olympics, like you've just worked for like every day for like 20 hours. Weeks. I mean, it's like the greatest. It's the greatest. Like going to the Olympics is my favorite thing. I would go every Olympics. I would cover shot putting or I would cover any event and love it. Like put my whole heart into it. Yeah. But you're exhausted when you're coming home. And so, the gold medal game was on the last day. I think I just slept. I actually worked all night and then went to the airport basically. So you're just so excited to get on that plane going home. And I had the sign out and was taking pictures with like the people on the plane. And it was awesome. I mean, it's cool. I don't feel like even sitting here right now, I don't feel a ton of Canadian pride. But when you're like in a foreign country and you're at the Olympics, like you can't help but feel a little twinge. I mean, my heart is not that cold and dark that I wasn't not happy at that point to see Canada win the gold medal and to see them win too, because I was at the women's final as well.
Wow.
Which was bananas.
Which was amazing. Yeah. And do you know what's funny? That was the only night off. I'd have to look at the schedule, but that was the only night theoretically I didn't have to go. Like we had someone else assigned to cover the game itself. And that was like of the whole tournament, the way the schedule worked. That would be like the only night if you just want to have a night to do something normal.
Yeah.
And like a huge percentage of the media did that. But I was like, I'm not missing a gold medal game. Like anything could happen. And I'm so glad I went. I think I wrote a sidebar or something. But like it was, I worked a little bit, but just to be there was like bananas.
You were there. And I bet you'll never forget that game, but the guys that went out and didn't go to the game will forget that meal. Like it'll probably be like a non-factor,
right?
right?
I don't want to.
No, of course not. But it's like
I'm not naming names.
You made the right choice, I think.
Well,
I would have made that choice.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny is a group of like the buddies I'm closest with that I would have been at dinner with. They bumped into the Canadian bobsledder Kaylee Humphreys.
Yeah.
And her partner, and they just won a gold medal. And they sent her a bottle of champagne like across the restaurant to her. And then she like came and like hung out with them. And so they had a cool night too.
That's
super
pretty cool.
But still.
Do
you know what? If Kaylee listens to this, maybe they've been lying to me about that because I never fact checked that. I just heard that. I just heard that they were generous and
Kaylee, blink twice on Twitter if you listen to this. We actually did that to the Penguins once, and they actually tweeted at Steve and blinked.
Yeah, the Penguins Twitter account.
The Penguins Twitter account
runs it's a fan.
Yeah,
I think it was just some intern, but still.
No,
that's amazing.
That's pretty cool. Like the Leafs could, like if you could never do that with the Leafs ever. You could never acknowledge that.
No, Sasky used to tweet at Steve all the time.
The Leafs could.
Account? Yeah. During games, she would reply to you if you're tweeting about the game.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the Penguins person. I think I do, but I'm not sure. Not yet. They're doing interviews. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a.
I applied. No, I'm kidding.
It's a. It'd be funny if she did. I would be genuinely curious.
No.
And surprised.
Because I'm not a good candidate.
Who can we do the blink test to right now?
I think the Penguins still.
All right.
You want to do it to the Penguins again, or do you want to do it to a different team? We could do it to Doug Sifu.
Good.
He was a guest once when I was on with you guys.
Yeah. That's right. You were there for that show.
Everyone who listens ever, blink at us on Twitter.
I'm just gonna get a bunch of eye emojis.
And we'll really know if you're listening because you'll include me, and I'm not.
I think the
and
Panthers.
we're like 3 hours in.
You want to do it to the Panthers?
Yeah, we're
Let's do it
deep.
to the Panthers.
Are you sure?
I think the Panthers.
You sure the Panthers?
I think the Panthers.
Hey, Drancer, are you listening?
Yeah, buddy. How you doing?
Okay, Florida. Blink twice if you're listening.
I was climbing Arthur's Seat. It's this like mountain hill,
Yeah,
whatever,
in Scotland.
In Scotland. Halfway up, I ran into Drance. He just turns the corner and goes, Dangle?
Really?
Yeah.
Man, the world is small.
It is a teeny tiny little pea in the middle of the universe. Yes.
I once was in Croatia traveling, and I bumped into a guy like I'd known forever, and we had no notion that either of us was there.
That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
I just want to throw this out there. We're running out of time.
Okay.
But I do want to end on Chris's bold prediction.
Oh, man.
That we are not going to hold you to, we promise. Okay, maybe a little.
All right.
Chris gets arrested for having that time.
I know there's
That one's
something.
mine.
Chris can't. There's got to be something behind this, by the way. Whatever
Leafs
he
Cup.
says.
No, I can't say that. Joe Bowen already said it.
Yeah.
That's been taken.
He that quote is so funny too. I was
did
on
he
the
say? I
I was
just
on
saw
the
the
fan
headlines.
morning show the
Said the
next
Leafs
day.
are gonna win the cup
He's
this
like,
year.
they'll win the cup next year. This year. 2018. Well, no, 2018 cup's already been awarded, but like this coming, like he couldn't spit it out. But yeah, he was like, McCowan's like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about?
Wasn't he on there because he signed a 5-year deal?
Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So my point is he could have hedged his bet and be like, they're going to win the cup in my deal.
Yeah, there you go. Right? No, but he said it was this year.
And a lot of people will be like, yeah, totally. That's not even bold. This year, now, damn it.
Right this minute.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think the Leafs are winning the cup this year. So,
I don't either. But
well, it could happen.
Yeah,
but
that cannot be your big bold prediction, though.
Yeah, no.
There's just too many factors.
I have not thought about hockey nearly enough to give you a good answer to this. So, like, what would be bold if I could predict either one team's terrible that you don't expect to be terrible?
It doesn't have to be a team. It could be a player. It could be a storyline. It could be anything.
Mike Augello last year called that the Blackhawks would miss the playoffs.
No, that was Gus Katsaros.
Oh,
it was Gus, and he was absolutely right.
Yeah, so that was a good bold prediction.
Noted,
That was bold
funny.
at the time.
Yeah.
Funny that you bring up noted Jake Gardiner hater, Mike Augello, who was single-handedly trying to get him traded out of town.
Is he?
Mike? Yeah, Mike. I can't stand the way that he plays. And he'd tell you that. Like, he's...
Mike, blink twice.
Mike will be listening.
That's a good blink.
I don't know. This is deep.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, I assume it's only people who fell asleep.
Yeah,
and
no,
who
man.
might wake up.
Question for Mike Augello. You're alone on a desert island with Jake Gardiner, armed only with a shovel. How do you kill Martin Marincin?
He also did, yeah. Not
You know
a
what we should do? Although I guess the season's coming quick. We should come back and do like an over-under or something, like a Leafs over-under game or something like that.
Yeah. Like Matthews,
Like point
40
totals, goals.
Yeah.
Anything.
You want to do that?
All right, go ahead
should
and invite
definitely.
yourself back on the show.
Come on back.
Well, I don't have to do the whole time. I could just do that.
Yeah,
Call you
come
up
back
for
and do
that.
it.
Whatever you want.
Or you can come in for 20 minutes of a show and we'll do that. We'll do a segment with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I don't even have a job right now, so I'll do whatever you guys need.
I know I don't have a job right now, so join
We
the
are
club.
2/4 unemployed right now.
Yeah.
And
Steve's contract's
Sorry.
expiring.
Yeah.
No extension offered yet.
I'm a YouTuber. That's not a job.
only Jesse's keeping this thing legit.
Yeah, and I run social media accounts, which isn't, that's a phony job anyways.
I think Jesse's the only one with benefits.
Yeah. No, Adam.
Adam's got like leftover benefits.
He's got negotiated benefits.
Yeah.
I'm on the fumes.
Yeah.
I most certainly don't have benefits.
Bold
Neither
prediction.
do I.
I don't have one.
You know what?
Man.
Okay, Chris, here's the deal. All right.
Okay.
Next time.
Okay, we're gonna do this show within the next month. Before
I
before
feel
training
like I
camp.
want to say something that I can come back a year ago and say, I told you.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
But I
Yeah,
don't
so
have
think
it
about
right
it.
now.
When will you
Think
have
about
that, do you think? Can we give you a month? Like, you come
you
back
can
before
give me
training camp?
days. It's just like I literally, like, honestly, my life is just like wake up and be like, oh, look at this endless nothing. Like,
All right. So we're gonna do
my
this.
point is, I'm not like looking at like hockey highlights
Yeah.
these days. It's August 20th.
Steve. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Right before training camp, we'll have you back on. Is that cool?
Yes.
All right, and then we will. This is the tease. Bold prediction then, as
Yes.
well as some other stuff too.
Good.
And I'll come with maybe I'll come with like 3 bold predictions or something. Like something,
Chris Johnston's top 3.
I don't know.
Burning
Any
tanks.
number.
Yeah.
3J.
I'm gonna give you 91. Every one for each of John Tavares' numbers.
There you go.
We found a title of this episode, by the way. 3J.
And nobody will get it unless they listen this long. Chris Johnston, our favorite person, best friend of the show.
All right, I love that voice.
Do you not love that? Come on.
Oh, I love
I thought that about that on the way here. I'm like, best friend of the show. I'm going to say that. Thanks so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Did you drive here?
I did. Yeah, well, I don't live there anymore.
Oh,
He's a commuter.
5 minutes.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.